Alrighty guys, good morning. Happy Thursday, guys. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning so far. Yes, did not stream last night. Some interesting things to talk about today. As we get things started here, we're going to play some Apex Legends, the dying game. It's kind of funny. Weeks ago, this was considered the Bastion. Apex Legends, the Bastion game. The next coming of Christ. Everyone rejoice, bow and grovel, you Fortnite scum. Yeah. Lopers, I don't fucking know. Anyways, the usual Mimi shit on Twitch. Mimi's fucking stupid. I fucking hate Mimis. Handful of Mimis that are actually funny, and the rest is just stupid shit. But anyways, yes. And now we're to the point where it's break even with Fortnite on a pretty regular occurrence. St. Louis is lower than Iowa. But that's the way it's going, guys. Have some things to talk about outside of Apex Legends, but yeah. Apex Legends definitely, I think they took too much advice from the god aimbot Shroud, and they're in a predicament right now where their gunplay basically isn't really fun in their game. So it's just gonna go the way of the dodo. It is basically the way it's gonna happen. Is people, if they don't enjoy playing their game, it doesn't matter if you had what's going on with my virtual audio cable here. Kind of weird. Might be on my main PC. Hey. This is another one of those things that's just supposed to work but doesn't. Guy right here. No. It's supposed to work, but it doesn't. It's never. It always. Like, this is probably the best version of audio over IP that is available for, like, streaming. And it still doesn't work all that great. You end up with underruns or overruns when it's syncing the audio, and then, like, you have to manually. Sometimes it works too, and sometimes it just doesn't. It just, for no apparent reason, just doesn't work right. I've used various versions of this. I've used this. I've used virtual audio cable over HDMI, and of course I've just transmitted over HDMI too. And this is probably the best implementation over IP that is available, but it's still just, like, it sometimes just doesn't work. You want something that works, and it just doesn't work. By the way, she's fucking hot as shit, which is totally a ripoff of Lifeline. Oh, Epic, you did a number. You took, like, all the little things that Apex Legends had going for it and just fucking rolled it up in a nice condensed ball and put it in your game. And there's just no way that they can compete with it. It doesn't work. Gotta have that strong African American character. Actually, she looks like she's Indian. She doesn't look African American. Not only by dress, but also complexion, I guess. Oh, they just took it all, guys. They just took that for a whirl. Season 8 came out for Fortnite, which we will talk about a bit. We aren't going to talk about extensively because, honestly, there isn't really that much to talk about. Basically, when they release a season, guys, for Fortnite or whatever, well, mainly for Fortnite, when they release a new season for Fortnite, all it is just, it's just cosmetics. It's basically cosmetics, and they set the tone for the new season. They're like, oh, come and explore this vast new area. Look at this. Wow. Intro. Do. Essentially, there really isn't much of a difference between Season 7 and 8 besides cosmetics. And that's really all it comes down to. Which is why I generally don't cover the beginning of the season. The patches in between the season are pretty interesting. I don't know how much of it we're going to cover. Fortnite has started to stagnate, and I don't mean it in terms of content. They still continually release content on a pretty regular basis. However, from a video game development standpoint, the game has started to stagnate because any changes they try to implement that will influence the meta, the big streamers immediately shoot down. So anything that essentially changes the meta, they're instantly against. Like the airplanes, which were definitely needed. They really hated them, but they're definitely needed just as a way of stirring up combat in the game. Instead of just people camping in boxes, they force people to be a little bit more agile, a little bit more not necessarily aggressive, but rather proactive with their gameplay. And they won't ever be able to get away from that until they start nerfing building and make it so you can actually secure kills instead of having someone turtle when they immediately get under the gun. And unless you have a bunch of teammates with you, you're just going, like, it's very difficult to finish someone off if they don't want to die. If they have a low enough ping, it's very difficult to finish people. You're never going to be able to get away from that. The kind of guns that were needed to use in the game, they had to get rid of, like SMGs, things that could actually cause attrition through tiles in the game. Like when someone's spamming tiles down, there's a way to actually hit someone inside of the box. Like it's not really hitting them through the walls either. It's in between the wall placements because the majority of the guns aren't fast enough to do that. So it makes it very difficult to actually finish someone off. If you have low enough ping, you basically never get hit by a shot. And they made guns fast enough, like the Tommy gun and the P90 with a big enough clip. And the P90 still exists in the game, but like if you don't have enough bullets, you're just going to eventually run out and you have to reload, and that's plenty of time for someone just to edit and pop you in the face. There's almost no downsides. Well, there isn't any downsides to building in the game, besides you run out of materials. The limitation to materials in season with their pop cups, which they then put into their primary game, were supposed to help with kind of the spamminess of building, but it doesn't. 500, 500, 500 is still a lot of fucking material. That's a lot of materials. That's like an insane amount of materials. Unfortunately, just like just the way the game is designed, they won't be able to get away from it. The meta has become too solidified, so they won't be able to change it. And anytime they're going to try and approach it again, they're going to get the same hand slap they've gotten the last couple times they've done it by streamers. That's just the way it goes. It's the same thing. It's like politics, guys. It's like a power struggle, only the power struggle is with your audience, which they aren't directly addressing, and they don't actually give reasoning for their points, and as such, they can't actually combat them. They don't have a front. The only front that they can come up with is when they do something in the game, and then the streamers outlash against it, and then they have to take it back, like the airplanes. The sword was kind of over the top. However, the sword was once again a symptom of them trying to kind of stretch the game a little bit away from spam building, where you just code everything in structures and code everything. You could literally just make it deployable. That doesn't make a structure. It just makes a brick of tiles that are just in an area. You could literally just make a rectangle of tiles or a square of tiles that's like 2 by like 10. It's just a square. And that's it. And it would be one of the most OP things in the game, because basically all people do when the going gets tough is they just edit shit. That's it. They'll just tunnel through that shit. They'll just bore through it. And you can say, oh, that's Fortnite, and I agree. Building is definitely a big part of Fortnite. However, the way it is utilized nowadays is basically people have no regards for the materials, and anytime they run out of materials, it is Epic's fault for doing so. It's like the amount of bitching that they have when they actually run into the only balancing change, you're not the only balancing change, the only limitation of building in the game, the only single limitation to building in the game, which is your max cap of mats, which is fucking huge. They bitch up a storm about it. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous, but that's where we're at right now. And Epic has pulled back further and further and regressed away from attacking buildings, because anytime they introduce something into the game that will maybe push it so you don't spend a lot of time just spam building constantly, doing 90s, as they call it nowadays. Doing 90s, which apparently is skill, by the way. How fast you can 90 is skill. I guess that's the way the game goes now. Anytime they try to pull away from that, everyone just throws up their hands in there. Like, no game in existence can show skill except Fortnite, because games don't have building in it. So obviously there's no skill in any other game, right? Because there's no way you could have skill in a video game other than building, right? Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but that's the logic they're using in Fortnite. And as such, your building has gotten to the point where it is completely out of control, and a lot of the things that you see in other games, like plain actual natural cover, plain corners, and then of course characters like in Apex Legends, for instance, some of them have things that allow you to kind of take advantage of your environment. Like you can have things like smoke grenades or dropping, even seen lifeline user drop as natural cover, right? Other ways of playing the game, or picking who you attack, when you attack, where you attack them, picking your cover, what you're using, everything that's in the game, where you can't just instantly build a defensive base that's basically impenetrable no matter what. Like, it just leads to a lot of just, I don't want to say Rambo, because you can be super aggressive and that doesn't necessarily mean you're stupid, but in Fortnite it's gotten to the point where basically you never need to regard when you engage people or where you engage people. Whereas in Apex Legends, for instance, if you third-party people, that's a pretty big deal, because they can't just build cover instantly and they can't just turtle. They can't just turtle up. They can try. They can use buildings as such, right? But depending on where you attack them, it can be very advantageous. Using tactics and strategy is something that eventually becomes lost when you can just instant build a defense that is nearly impenetrable. As I keep saying, impenetrable, because it is. The lower your ping is, the harder it is for people to actually kill you inside of a structure if you don't want to leave it like a 1x1. Obviously, the counter to that is a low ping, and not everyone has that, so eventually you just win just because someone can't kill you inside your structure because their ping isn't low enough to actually hit you through your builds, like between the cycle of when your wall goes down and when it goes back up. And there's videos on YouTube on that if you guys don't believe me. It's definitely, low latency advantage is a huge part of Fortnite. But anyways, yeah, it's just where Fortnite is. They kind of built their bed and now they're stuck in it, so to speak. And there really isn't much that they're going to be able to do to get away from it. So as I mentioned, their development is kind of stagnated because the meta really doesn't change anymore. Whereas the meta was changing throughout the seasons, probably up to season 6 maybe, the meta kept changing. Now it's basically solidified. They aren't going to be able to get away from big changes that affect the meta. And just like in Overwatch, or with the way, not in Overwatch, but the way Blizzard does balancing, they're going to have to confront these things with a roundabout way that'll make people not scream and, slam their hands on their desk and kick their feet constantly in order to rebalance their game and make it so it's not so bound on building, like adding airplanes, and then everyone hates airplanes and you have to take them out. So it's pretty circular. It always goes back to the same shitty kind of pump and peak gameplay that you have in season 2. That's all they want, because that's what streamers are good at, and that's what they're brought up on, and that's what made their channels. So they're obviously very biased towards what actually helped them out in the beginning. Very, very biased. And now they can't make major changes. Their last major changes probably to the meta was with SMGs being very prevalent in season 3 or 4, season 5. In season 5, season 3 was still pump and peak. Season 5, having SMGs being very prevalent, and it pissed off a lot of people. But at the same time, it also, those same people that were, always winning matches, all of a sudden started losing matches, which is also why it pissed them off. Go figure there's a correlation between winning matches and how happy you are with the game. It was funny, by the way, I was watching Ninja, whatever, the shenanigans they had going on earlier tonight, where they basically got a 20 win streak, and they basically had no contest whatsoever. And you can sum that up basically to people coming back in Season 8 because it's the beginning of the season, and there's a lot more casual people playing the game that might have quit who are now playing the game, so it makes things a lot easier for them to play. It's not that they magically got better or they're doing a lot better, it's just that the people that they're playing against were a lot worse. I guess another victim of lack of a matchmaker and low latency advantage and all that jazz, and just people being bad and casuals. So, but anyways, in the past seasons, you can basically just look at the seasons where essentially the spam build meta was attacked, and these people that are harking against anything that affects the spam build meta do worse. And then they die a lot more, and then they bitch a lot more until it gets changed, and then they win a lot more, and then they don't bitch about it anymore, but then they'll still find something to bitch about. Like, I think in Season 7? Season 7, yeah, like last fall, before the planes and the sword were added, and after they took out... They nerfed... What did they nerf? I think the Tommy gun got vaulted in Season 6. There's something happening right before the sword release and before Season 7 started. And everyone's like, oh, this is the way the game should be played. And basically it was just pump and peek. And they're perfectly happy with it. I'm trying to think, where is it going with that? I was concentrating too much on the season and I lost context. Figuring out what season that actually applied to. Motherfucker. What happens when you have a bunch of thoughts swirling around in your head, guys, and you're concentrating on one particular one and you just lose it on the original one. I don't know. That's gone. It's gone, guys. I don't know where I was going with that. Something in Season 7. Basically, everyone was happy with Season 7 because it basically just went back to pump and peek, and that's where everyone was... basically, they did their best in the game, and then they're happy with it, so... They ended up... Now it's bugging me. Motherfucker. Anyways, I don't know what's happening there, guys. I completely lost track of that. But yeah, season 8. Now we're back to the same old, and basically it's going to be this way forever. Because they can no longer directly address the spam build meta, and as such, it's just going to reign supreme. And anytime they'll try and change it, it's just going to get hammered down immediately by people that are streaming. So if they don't want to keep doing one of these things where they make an item to attack the spam build meta, and then they get bitched out, and then it goes back down, and they do one of these things where it keeps every season they have to add something new that's different, that does exactly the same thing in a different way, and then it gets bitched out back to the OG, to the original gameplay. We're just gonna be stuck where it is, which is why I mentioned before I haven't really been covering Fortnite game development. It's not necessarily because the game isn't like evolving. It's not because Apex Legends came out. It's rather because the meta in Fortnite has stagnated. It's become basically where it's always going to be now, basically till the end of time, because that's what they did with the game. And anytime they try, there's going to be a public outcry anytime they try to change it. Whereas you have a game like Overwatch, for instance, and regardless of where the meta is, in the game, if they release a new character, it usually completely changes the gameplay. It'll change up the meta, like, you know, when used to play her all the time. Why the fuck can't... Bro? No. Why the fuck can't I remember her name? Character... Racer or girl? Prez as the question. Good. Bridget. When Bridget was released, she absolutely changed the gameplay. Wrecking Ball didn't really have much of an impact. Ash is another hit scan. She's a straight up hit scan, so not really much of a change there because she's just like free. But Bridget changed a lot of gameplay. Moira, very, very mobile healer. Doomfist took a while before he kind of blossomed. But that mainly happened with tanking becoming more prevalent. He was kind of the tank buster, so to speak. And I don't know what Baptiste is about, because I've not played him on beta, and I don't know exactly how he's going to play out. But either way, like even if they want to actually innovate, if they want to have new characters which aren't just another fucking, you know, hit scan like Ash, which isn't really anything new or different, like, they got to keep applying new and different things to the game. Like, they had builders for a while. They kind of went away from that, but, like, still Torbjorn and Symmetra are very different characters to play in the game compared to what's already in the game. It's the same thing with the MOBA. Like, you keep adding new and different characters, fresh ideas to the game to change it up. And if you have a game like Fortnite or you have a game like Apex Legends, and Apex Legends is even drier than Fortnite because they don't really have any gun differentiations. One of the problems with Apex Legends that I've talked about extensively is there's no gun differentiation, and the gun balance is absolutely fucking atrocious. Everything is very similar to each other, and then it all just basically comes down to DPS because they're all very, very accurate. Well, they're 100% accurate weapons except for sniper rifles off the hip. Hip fire is 100% accurate except for sniper rifles off the hip. And occasionally you'll get like just a rando projectile that'll just fly out in a random direction when you're firing full auto. It doesn't really make sense. Either way, it doesn't follow a cone of fire. And it's not a spray pattern. It's not like the same spot every single time. The bullets aren't the same every single time. But either way, like, it's Apex Legends is very, very, very rigid, which is one of the reasons the game's dying, and it's going to die out because it's like Counter-Strike. They made a Counter-Strike game, only you can't make a Counter-Strike game because Counter-Strike's fucking boring, and it's a relic, it's a monolith, it's this abomination from the 90s. It was great when it came out, but then it got old, and the only people that like it are like the people. It's like nostalgia. It's like having WoW Classic that's around, and every time a new first-person shooter comes out, everyone compares skill to Counter-Strike because Counter-Strike's the end-all be-all of video games, right? You can't, there's like, you never, from a development standpoint, you never want to have another Counter-Strike because, like, it's nice and everything that the game will just be like that forever, but like, you can't ever change it. You can't really ever do anything with the game. It's just going to be there. It's just going to be this game, and people argue, oh, they added slightly tweaked weapons and shit like that, you know, and it makes a world of difference to the people that play thousands of hours of the game like every year. But for like anyone that actually likes games and likes new things, Counter-Strike is not it. Fortnite, still better off than Apex Legends though, because of the way they designed the gunplay in Apex Legends. Even if they add new characters, the gunplay itself is very, very bland and boring. And as such, it's going to leagues much easier, which is why it's dying out on Twitch. And I'm sure the player base is also dying out in the game. And cheating also weighing down extensively on it. But that's not all that's causing it. It's if people really enjoyed the gameplay, they'd still be playing it. But it's not, and people would enjoy watching it too. But they don't. Like even Shroud, which wins like 95% of his games. He doesn't really even play the game. If you watch him, he doesn't really even do anything. All he does is aim. I mean, it's not really saying something like he doesn't do anything. It's not using skill. However, like him playing the game versus someone that has like normal aim in the game. Like it's completely different. Like the game is so easy for him. He's not even playing. It's not even fun to watch him because he's not really even playing the game. Like it's weird. Like they made the game so easy for someone with this very specific skill set that almost no one can compete with it, and it's not really fun anymore. It's not really all that interesting. It becomes very, very bland. Like I said, you can like going back to Fortnite at one point where I was discussing them constantly adding weapons that are like laser rifles because everyone wants a laser rifle. Everyone wants a 100% accurate weapon that'll insta-gib a target the moment they shoot it, but that doesn't make for fun and engaging gameplay. It doesn't make for interesting gun balance and game mechanics. All it is just a laser rifle, and you can argue that you're going to be the Hokage or you're the Pirate King. You know, you're the one true savior of the universe because you can ADS and right click on someone faster and then left click. That doesn't mean that you have all that is imbued in video games, right? That doesn't mean that's the end all of video game development because you can do this one specific task extremely well. That's actually kind of borderline like Asperger's or something. Like you only have one very, very specific skill set. I don't think it's Asperger's. It's another cognitive disorder. Basically, if you're hopped up on enough Adderall, you basically can do the same thing, and it doesn't make for a very fun game, and it's one of the reasons Apex Legends is it's a fun game, but I also don't have, like, god-tier aim in the game, and I haven't played it that much. I only have, like, 70 hours in the game, so I really haven't played it that much compared to other people, but it's eventually just going to die out, specifically because it's just about this one specific skill set. And if that skill set is so outweighing the other possible skills in the game, that if you're good enough at it, you don't even need to play the game. Basically, you don't need to use your abilities, you don't need to, med at the right time, you don't need to approach from the right angle, you don't need to pick your engagement areas. Like, all you need to do is aim with the wingman, and then you're good to go, which doesn't make for really that much fun gameplay. It's actually very boring. And a lot of people can see that, which is why they quit. Not necessarily they can see that that is the specific reason for it, but rather the game just loses its interest. You basically always end up with the same guns, using the same guns over and over and over again because they're the most powerful in the game. And you always encounter the people with the same guns that do exactly the same thing over and over and over again because it's the most powerful way to kill people in the game. And as such, you basically just end up in this lull where you have a game that's very, very stale. Despite people saying it's new and fresh because Apex Legends is new. It's only been out for, I think, a month now, and that's not very long. And of course, Fortnite's been out for a year and a half, so Battle Royale Fortnite's been out for a year and a half. So obviously, in comparison, it's new and fresh when you've played Fortnite for 12 hours a day for the last year and a half. Anything's going to be new and fresh at that point, right? However, Apex Legends is going that way. You can see, like, the streamers are slowly trickling back from Legends to Fortnite. And this isn't meant as, like, oh, Apex Legends is better. I mean, look, now Apex Legends is higher. It doesn't mean that, like, Fortnite's better than Apex Legends. It's a different kind of game. However, Apex Legends definitely has shoot itself into this one little corner where they're kind of the same way as Fortnite, where basically you have this one skill set that makes you infinitely better than everyone else, which is spam building in Fortnite, and that's really only if you have a good internet connection, not specifically if you're just good at building, but rather you have a good internet connection. Latency advantage in Fortnite is still a huge deal, and Fortnite has a lot more differentiation than Apex Legends does. However, they've also cut down on that with the addition of the marksman rifle, or whatever it's called, basically the M1 Grand in the game. And they make the guns all much more like lasers. Everyone wants a laser, that's what they say, but that's not what they want, because that doesn't make for fun gameplay. Like I've mentioned before, one of the worst genres, in my personal opinion, in video games for first-person shooters is Modern Warfare, because all the guns are really fucking accurate, and you kind of lose this kind of nitty-gritty gameplay feeling in the game. In addition to that, like, you can't pick your battles. You can't, like, oh, this guy's a shotgun, I shouldn't engage him in close quarters. Like, it just turns into one of these things where everyone's using a laser rifle, so you just run around laser rifling people, and it's like, it always plays out the same way. Like we're just talking about with Apex Legends, it always feels like you have a very, very similar game. It's new and fun because it's like one of the few games that's actually done classes right in a battle royale. There was what is that high-res game with classes in it? A Battle Right? No, that was a top-down MOBA battle royale. I don't remember the name of it anymore. That shows it was big on Twitch for about a couple weeks, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks on Twitch, and everyone played it. But it died out because the classes were really actually very boring, and they tried to make it too specific. Where in Apex Legends, I've even suggested Fortnite do something similar to Apex Legends, only before Apex Legends came out, which is adding classes to the game or perks to the game, which you can pick before you actually jump out of the airplane, which kind of give you an edge on people, but doesn't win the game for you, and it doesn't lock you into only using sniper rifles or only using shotguns or whatever. You can basically pick your kit just like you're playing a normal character, but it also adds abilities that you wouldn't have otherwise available to you. And they've done a very good job at that, and that's one of the reasons that Legends is kind of fresh, even though the class balance in Apex is really, really fucking terrible. I don't know what they're thinking when they made Gibraltar, and then they made Wraith. I have problems with names tonight, guys. In general, problems with names. Wraith. They made Wraith, and she's like, what it was a Reddit post. She's like half the size of Gibraltar, and she like flattens out when she runs, so she's only half the height of a normal character when she's approaching you. And they gave them the same health. So like they gave them the downsides of like a normal class-based game where you have a character that's bigger and much, like a tank, right? But they didn't make him tanky. He has the same health as a Wraith, but he's like times the size. Like the last game, it was I think it was the last game I played on last stream. I got picked Gibraltar because I was AFK, and Gibraltar just got picked out for me. And you go down so much more with Gibraltar than say using like a Lifeline or Bangladesh, whatever her name is, or Mirage, which I normally play, just because the characters are just much smaller. It's one of these weird things that they never really thought of when they're making the game. Just kind of slipped their mind, I guess. I don't really understand that. But, anyways, Division's still sponsored. Sponsored. Division just got the Division probably will still actually do well because Division at the end of the day still has the grind going on where Apex Legends doesn't have a grind to it. There isn't a grind. You basically get what you got, and that's it. So even if they add things like a ladder to the game, they add more classes to the game, it's not really going to matter because gunplay isn't fun. It's not like, oh, I can play this gun in a certain way and get ahead of someone else that has a different gun. No, it's you just have to find the gun that they're using, and then you'll do better. I don't know, guys. But yeah, anyways, beginning of Fortnite Season 8, a lot of people swapped back, and even though it looks kind of like it's level now, Apex Legends had 2 times as many people streaming it and watching it. Well, I don't know about streaming it, but watching it, because it's very difficult to actually see the amount of streamers that are in a category. Like, Better Twitch should really show you the number of streamers that are in a category, and it doesn't. That'd actually be a really nice stat, not just the amount of viewers. That'd actually be a really nice stat. And it's one of those hidden stats that you're supposed to know. Is like, for comparison's sake, is the distribution of people, the viewers in a specific category. So, if the distribution, like if all the viewers are in one channel, that's not a good game to stream. But if they're more split up and even distribution among the channels, from top down, that's a better game to stream, for instance. In addition to that, obviously one with less people streaming it, but a higher viewer to streamer ratio is another good stat. Hidden gem, guys, if you're looking for categories of streaming on Twitch. Just fapping. Oh my god, there's my category. Wow. I do want to play Metro Exodus. That's another thing I've talked about. After we get bored of Apex Legends, we'll be playing Metro Exodus. I do want to play a single player playthrough of that. Yeah, Fortnite basically just took everything from... It was actually kind of weird. Like, Epic actually at one point looked kind of a little bit desperate about Fortnite. But apparently Fortnite lost half of its sales in a month. That's actually ridiculous. That just basically shows you... That shows you how big of a difference, like, hype makes on a game. Like, just their ability just to completely... like, where they just lose a super... That's a lot of sales for, like, a normal company. That is an insane amount of sales. It loses half sales. Fortnite craze is over? What? Black Ops 4 Blackout feels like it's going to kill the Battle Royale trend. Oh, yeah? It's like reading fucking articles from people on cryptocurrency. Crypto, by the way, if you didn't know, Bitcoin reached 66,000 at the end of 2018. Yep. Jesus. And also is worth $0. You're 18 single. That's in June. Lost sales. February. A lot of articles interfering right now from Season 8. I definitely saw a news article stating that Fortnite lost half of its sales in February. There it is. Fortnite drops 48% in January alone. They lost to FIFA. What? To FIFA? What? On console though. Hey, League of Legends. This isn't reported stats. This is from a research company. It does very much make you wonder where the fuck they get these stats from. Crossfire. Fantasy Westward Journey Online 2? What the fuck? Dungeon Fighter Online? Yeah, okay. Maybe I wouldn't trust these stats. Yeah, so it's revenue fall and 48% in January from previous Christmas though. Remember. Anyways, kind of creative, kind of crazy, guys. Kind of fucking crazy. Am I still mining? Yes. Would I suggest you mine? Absolutely fucking not. And it's actually something I'm considering getting out of right now, even though I've mined for 6 years. I am very much contemplating selling my stuff off and not really retiring from it, but rather biding time at the current moment. There's too many people in mining right now. They're too young. They're too stupid. And they just do reckless things that just, like, they make reckless buying decisions that don't pan out. And actually, it's something I'm very, very much considering getting out of at the moment. It's like, because it's so easy to do, but anyone can do it. And there's no real, like, you don't really need to be smart to be able to do it. Not that you should be smart. Like, I'm not saying that they have to be smart, but rather people they have not too much money, but they have access to too much money for their own good, and they don't realize what they're getting into. They just see that they can make thousands of dollars every month from doing this thing that involves no work whatsoever because it's a computer, which isn't true as well. I can tell you that from being a decently sized miner for a very long time, that it does take up. It's like having kids. It's like having a bunch of kids. It's something that I'm very much considering getting out of at the current moment. A hard choice because it's something I love doing. And I know the ups and downs of it. I also know what's in store for me. But at the current time, it's just not a good idea. It's not financially, especially with the amount of risk involved, and it's not financially a sound idea. So I think I'm actually very much going to have to restructure if I don't decide just completely sell everything and attack things from a different angle that less people are doing. Because right now, there's a lot of really fucking stupid people mining, and they mine, like, they don't even look at the amount of money that they're making. They'll look at a calculator online, which can be absolutely fucking completely wrong. And then they don't even look at, like, the amount of power that they're using every month. So, like, you have people that are mining negative that expect Bitcoin to go to the moon next month, so it's going to hit 24,000 in March. It's just not doing that. Like, we had an uptick in sales, or an uptick in mining revenue in January this year. When there's a launch of two specific coins, which was Zcoin and then Grin, both of which have reached basically, they aren't worth much more than any other coin you're mining at the moment. And the profit that people made from those two coins was basically put back into hardware, which increases the network difficulty. And even though we were making more in January than we were making in the prior 4 months of mining, basically everyone put so much money back into their equipment that now we're basically earning the same amount we were earning in December. Which is, unless, depending on how cheap your power is, you're not actually making money. You're paying the power company to mine cryptocurrency and exchange it for you. Like, you're basically just paying the power company for power. That's it. And your hardware degrade over time. There's a lot of things. Opportunity cost is a big deal that a lot of people do not understand. And I've thrown around the word quite a bit in crypto community, and I see people using it now. However, they don't really understand it, fortunately. And it's just kind of, there's no way to get ahead of people that just read a guide on YouTube, so you're basically just eternally fucked. There's a lot of people that just have rigs too that they just turn off instead of selling because they're waiting for the crypto to rise again, and I call it dark hash. People that turn off their hash and then wait for it to rise again, and then they turn it back on, so you never earn more money. It's actually kind of scary to think about. There's just this dam of hash rate, which is basically the amount of work you can do, that just isn't online until the revenue increases, and then this comes online, and then this goes back down. So you basically net almost no money, even if the markets increase, which they're doing right now. Bitcoin went up from like 3,200 in January, and now it's at 4K, and I'm making less money. Just a telling sign right there. Like, the markets are completely flooded, absolutely flooded with really stupid miners. And it's the people that decided to dial in January last year. It's very, very weird. This whole last year was very weird. 2018 for mining was horrible. Absolutely fucking horrible. Because everyone decided they had to mine after Bitcoin peaked. Like, Bitcoin was sliding downhill when everyone started mining in January. That's when all the graphics cards started selling out midway through January and February and March. And Bitcoin was going like, like this, and everyone's like, buy on hardware. But hardware, like, the amount of money you make is directly related to market prices. And when everything's crashing, you don't buy hardware investment to mine the crashing currency. But everyone did. So then we went like this, and they completely missed each other. Like, this kind of break even is just well past. And there's some really fucking stupid people. And I'd say that with a bit of jaded bitterness too, because it's ruining things for me. Like, revenue with cryptocurrency is shared, which means if you mine on the same coins that I do, we share revenue, we share earnings, and that's the way it is. That's like, revenue distribution is fixed. It's a pie, and your amount of money you get is based on the amount of work you do, and you always, the coin always emits, relatively speaking, emits the same amount of coins. But anyways, like, people that don't understand it, and they think they can throw more hash rate in, and they'll just instantly make more money no matter what. It's not remotely the way it works. So while someone on YouTube might have like hashtag $, Bitcoin $, all over their YouTube videos and say, you could be a Bitcoin millionaire in a month too, they have, like, it's actually really kind of dangerous. It's actually very, very dangerous, because people, like, I'd say like 98% of the people that are in cryptocurrency mining are really stupid, and like 2% are smart. And that 2%, like, is a bit reckless, like myself, and I knew what I was getting into. However, like, I found ways of always getting ahead, and now it's gotten to the point where there's so much media and social media, like, especially these new fucking kids are so stupid. Like, they find something that makes them more money, and then they immediately tell everyone in a Discord full of, like, thousands of users what this new thing is that makes them so much more money. And I can't even describe the amount of, like, just like bile that, like, leaks out of me when that happens, because it's something usually I always know about, almost always know about, because I'm very good at researching. That's part of crypto. And they basically give away something that they're good at. It's like they don't even realize that they share money with people that they're literally giving away money to people that they would be making. It's not like they'll still make the same amount of money. If they have this guy over here that's mining X coin, and he's on Y coin channel, and he tells everyone in Y coin channel that there's a lot more people in Y coin channel about X coin, these guys all flood over here. And they basically, it's like a bunch of containers filling up with water, guys. I'm sure you've seen those everywhere. they all level off. They always level off with each other, and the only way to get ahead is if you know a taller container that has less people in it, less liquid in it, until that eventually also just levels up with everything else, and it flattens out, and basically roughly about power price. And they're just so fucking stupid. It just like it's a bunch of different feelings coming up here, guys. I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm nostalgic, and like all at the same time, because there's just people that are really fucking stupid. And like it's like taking shotguns to your feet, guys, and pulling the triggers and going, ha ha ha, how much fun is it, guys? Ha ha ha, look at this coin, ha ha ha, you know, and you're just like shooting your feet out. And these guys are so stupid, they don't even fucking realize that they're doing it. Holy fuck, God, I can rant and rave about that so much. It's just the sheer idiocy. Like it doesn't even occur to them that they're losing money by doing that, and not only losing a little bit of money, because one person in a Discord channel can be someone that has one GPU, or it can be someone that has thousands of GPUs, and they are not all created equal. And there's some channels that are much more popular that have a lot of old miners in it who aren't really smart, that have just really cheap power. I've encountered those, by the way. There's plenty of really stupid people with really cheap power, so basically they're too big to fail. Or they're in too good circumstances to fail, essentially, is what it comes down to. So they'll make money till the end of time, and they think, once again, that they don't have opportunity cost, even though they're basically making like 5 cents more per day per GPU than I am, or something like that. Even because they have really cheap power, like 3 cents a kilowatt instead of like 10 cents a kilowatt. You shouldn't even be mining right now. But you're making like 7 cents, 7 cents a difference there, and it sounds like a lot, but it's not really. It's not when it comes down to it. The amount of hardware that you need to invest in order to actually achieve any sort of meaningful goal with it is, once again, not there. You can't make up for it in power costs. You just dump so much money into hardware that it doesn't really pay for itself. But holy fuck, guys, you just have these guys, and they aren't uncommon. This isn't something that has only happened once. They're so fucking stupid. They'll just like talk about like, hey guys, guess what? This new miner came out and it has so much better hash rate, guys. Wow, did you guys see this new miner? It's so much better. Wow, guys, wow. Why is the difficulty increasing, guys? I don't get it. I'm making less money now. I don't understand. Who's this difficulty monster? You know, and you tell all these other people that don't have the new miner, who then go get the new miner, and then all of a sudden your miner that was originally making more hash rate per unit of work, or per unit, like a GPU, is now making the same as everyone else. Like, holy fuck, yeah, the rave is real, because this is how I make money. This is my life. Basically, I am talking about my livelihood right now, is because like, even for how much I've streamed. I mean, this year in 2018 was the year where I started, halfway through it is when I started taking time off from doing streaming. Well, that's because I streamed for 5 years, and streaming hasn't ever made me really that much money. I appreciate you guys subbing. However, I'm too niche of a streamer to support myself, and that's like shooting myself in the feet right there. I'm too niche. I'm too smart, I would say, in some ways, and obviously too strong-willed in other ways, where I just don't accept just acting like a derp sometimes to get a more general viewer base. Yeah, it's just like, it's literally taking a gun and blowing off your feet. I don't get it. It's like they don't understand like the basics of cryptocurrency, or mining for that matter. They just think that this crypto comes out of thin air and is just willed to them from the gods, and that there's no system in place to regulate it. And there definitely is. It's not that there's a bank of Jumanji or whatever somewhere, but rather, you know, there's a mission schedule set in place where it only emits a certain amount of coin over time, which can go up, it can ramp down. It depends on what the mission schedule looks like. But anyways, you share that with everyone else that's mining your coins. So if people find out about it, if everyone's using the same hardware, it doesn't fucking matter. The 4 things that get you ahead in cryptocurrency is knowing something that no one knows, like a coin that no one else is mining, which is fucking rare. Everything's so saturated right now, this really doesn't even apply anymore. Having software that gets ahead of everything else. This is kind of one of the ways of the dodo as well, because due to the increase in cryptocurrency, there's a lot more developers on board now, and there's a lot more fee-based miners, which means pretty much they're public and everyone can get them, and there's very little way to actually get ahead of everyone else as far as software goes. Hardware, such as ASICs, which I'm sure you guys heard of before, which is specialized hardware for mining, and this doesn't kill everything, but FPGAs are becoming more prevalent now, but require very, very, very specialized knowledge to program for them, which is extremely rare. Extremely, extremely rare. Where making a miner is much easier. There's probably 20 people that can make a miner to every one that can program an FPGA. Maybe even higher than that, maybe 30 to 1 in crypto right now. It's very, very rare. FPGA mining, the thing that everyone talks about, because you can reprogram them, so it's like ASICs that you can reprogram. ASICs are hardware made specifically for mining, like SHA-256 for Bitcoin or something. They can reprogram them, and as such, that means they can assault new algorithms that come out. Fourth one is your power cost, which is how much your power costs, your kilowatt hour, power per kilowatt hour, which includes things like transmission costs. It depends a lot on where you live. It depends on circumstances. There's a lot of people in thanks hosted, there's a lot of people in like areas with hydroelectric power that have really cheap power, mainly because there's an excessive amount of power that's generated very cheaply and there's no cost associated with it. Whereas wherever you build power plants around the US, for instance, let's say, or well, maybe like coal power plants are really your cheap power, you can scale those up and down and you can build them anywhere, but coal costs money to burn. Hydro doesn't cost money, but you're also limited. There's a finite amount of resource involved in hydro, so hydro is basically cheap up until the point you reach, there's a lot of people trying to get power from it, then it basically equalizes with cost of like a coal power plant, because it has to pull power from somewhere. There's some people that live in third world countries, they love tooting their horn, guys. That's like their favorite thing to do is a stupid fucking miner with his 3 cents a kilowatt hour that likes jerking himself off on Discord. Hey guys, look how big my hash rate is. And then he does really stupid shit too. And then he just, but my farm's so much bigger than yours, guys, you know? Oh my god, it's so big. Yeah, you know, and he literally has armed guards protecting his GPUs so they don't get raided by a drug lord or something stupid. Yeah, you know, there's trade-offs to living, and I don't think I'm ready to go live in a third world country just so I can get really cheap power. Just so I can, you know, stroke my donger off on Discord. So, Jesus Christ. You can stream under hashtag negativity and no one would know you better. Wow, are you saying I'm negative, Ooze? It's just that one particular, you hit a soft spot with that. Slane didn't do that on purpose, but rather it's something that's really kind of delicate right now, because like I mentioned, that's how I make money. That's my livelihood. And like, it would be different if the people that were also mining I thought were smart and realized what they're doing, but they aren't. It's like deer in the headlights. So like, they don't even know what they're doing, and then they don't know why things are falling apart, and then they just keep doing it anyways because they think it'll fix itself because Bitcoin is going to be $60,000 at the end of 2018, right? And they'll read a financial outcast made by Forbes or something that says Bitcoin, one crypto financial analyst said that crypto is going to reach 220,000 by the end of 2019. And they're like, ooh, I should invest and I should keep my mining hardware, you know, and they don't really make any sort of actual, you know, critical thought of their own. They don't actually think for themselves. It's empty. This is empty. This is like mining, guys. This is all that's left right there at the bottom. Now it's gone. It's actually this is like kind of like a tragedy of the commons. This is like directly related to tragedy of the commons, where you have like a finite resource that only so many people can use, but then everyone just uses it up because they have no regard really for the other people around it. But I mean, I don't have any more right to mining rewards than anyone else, right? I don't have any more right or entitlement to mining rewards than anyone else does. But it's kind of a tragedy of the commons going on here. No, your messages are going through, I think. Not everyone likes critical analysis, and people mistake it for negativity. When I get on like my rants, guys, when I get on my rants or on my podium, sometimes I just have to let it all out. I have to go through the hoops before looking back at chat. That's definitely one of my downsides, is I don't have a very good filter for getting distracted with chat. Like if I read chat and like something completely throws me off, it's very difficult for me to stay on track with things. Yeah, that's another thing is like people don't like critical analysis. People don't like Debbie Downers. Crypto is very much. I mean, it's full. It's. Do you have any sort of horror story? It's been done in crypto, guys. And there. So I'm probably going to need to restructure. One of the other things I've considered doing is moving. My coffers right now are dwindling at the moment. Every time we take a negative month, and it's approaching that with cryptocurrency, they get smaller and smaller because not only do I have to pay for electricity, but there's also bills, and obviously just staying alive is kind of a big deal. And the amount of money that I've invested in crypto, I've been waiting a little bit for like different announcements to happen, and biding basically the last 6 months I've been biding time, waiting for specific announcements to happen. Basically after the launch of Turing, which was a huge disappointment, I've been waiting for different things to happen. If Turing was actually a respectable like chip, it would have changed crypto. A lot of the new kids that showed up at the beginning of beginning of 2018 would have been shit out of luck because they would have had older hardware that was outdated, and they would have had to have sold. Unfortunately, Turing, which is the new NVIDIA architecture, the 2000 series, was just an absolute fucking, like, just a belly flop of a flop. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking at NVIDIA. They basically... They didn't understand that cryptocurrency comes in waves and it comes and goes, and basically the amount of money that they're making on a binge because people were running for GPUs was not how much they're going to continue making. So they end up with a bunch of old hardware. Then they overestimated what a huge difference that ray tracing was going to make. Ray tracing is like one of those little things you turn on, like tessellation, that looks cool, but gamers aren't willing to sacrifice like half their FPS to turn on ray tracing. Most gamers aren't, unless you're playing like some sort of slow-paced game, like a horror game, who aren't willing to turn on ray tracing. That's just, yeah, it's like tessellation was really cool when they came out with DirectX 11 or 12. I forgot which is tessellation. It's either 11 or 12. I think it's 11. Tessellation came around, which made everything look much more detailed than it really is. It was really cool, and you can turn it on or off, but you didn't require you to have a brand new GPU just to use it. Something that's just very cool. With Turing, they added ray tracing, and ray tracing is they basically, like, half the die on new NVIDIA GPUs, like, their Turing processor, their tensor cores, and their ray tracing cores, which is used for AI-based behavior and, of course, ray tracing. Yeah, it's actually, I don't know what they're thinking. How can you have a billion-dollar company and not have the ability to actually see what your demographics are actually interested in? Like, they could have visited any of like their Twitch channels, or like how the fuck can you fuck up that bad? It just blows my mind. I don't know. And then there's like people that are like, it's weird. Like this, like tech websites just completely in a different realm. Like you just read comments on from people that basically just don't play games. They play games on occasion. They benchmark it. But you have all these people talking about what a huge difference, ray tracing is and how cool it looks, and everyone's happy that they're taking these steps. And like it's the beginning because ray tracing is highly unoptimized because it's brand new and there's new silicone for it. Like no one's even considering the thought that just they don't want it. Gamers don't want it. They don't care enough. Like it would be something if it used a tiny bit of like FPS and it didn't cost more. I would be for it, but it's not. It was a huge investment. It was a huge sink in it. And NVIDIA just absolutely fucking shit the bucket with Turing. So not only do we have GPUs that basically are the same price as last generation, the same performance, in order to get better performance, you basically have to spend an inordinate amount of money. Like, I have a 1080 Ti. A 2080 is not an upgrade for me. It's basically the same thing. A 2080 Ti is an upgrade, but it costs $1,300. So I have a GPU right now, which didn't cost nearly that much, and like they want me to buy a 2080 Ti. Like this is one of the worst generations for video cards ever. Like just AMD hasn't released anything. Like the next big thing, guys, is gonna be Navi coming out this summer. AMD, I don't think, has gotten very distracted by ray tracing. They've talked about being able to do it on their chips. It's just obviously gonna be a lot slower. I don't really care. because gamers don't care. So, like, the next big thing, guys, is probably going to be Navi, which is possibly coming out later this year, like October. Probably, it keeps getting pushbacks, and we haven't really seen any production samples, so we're probably talking at least December before we see it. However, Navi is, like, you're talking, like, the supposed leaks, which are, like I said, really fucking far out there, posts, like, a 2080 performance at, like, $250. And that's insane. NVIDIA has milked the shit out of their new generation. To the point where there's really no buy it. There isn't, and then they lose money. Because people, why would we buy a brand new generation when it doesn't even give us more performance? You know? Like, if they wanted to do that, they had to mark things down, like a 2070 for 2080 performance at this, like 2070 prices, but they didn't. They just increased the 1070 prices to the 1080 prices, which is $500. Insane. So, like, it was just, I don't know what NVIDIA thought. I don't know what they're thinking, but there's just a big disconnect between their target demographic, which is essentially gamers, and, like, what they thought they wanted. It just blew my mind how big of a difference there could actually be between those. Like, this isn't a small thing. You can ask a lot of the streamers on Twitch if they'd be willing to sacrifice like 50% of their performance for like slightly better eye candy, and they just say no, like straight up. Like, if you just made a very basic question, like, would you be willing to sacrifice 50% of your FPS for a little bit better eye candy? They just go, no, fuck that shit. But they didn't do that. So, yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not one of these things, you know. For instance, I keep textures up. I keep things that make the game look really clean up, but I turn down, like, you know, visual explosions and stuff. And obviously, there's some people that want a little bit more visual flair, but there's a really big performance hit for ray tracing. It's just, and of course, there's specialized support for it, and you need specialized GPUs for it, and you need to pay a premium for it. There's a lot of downsides to ray tracing, and it's not something that people are willing to spend money on. So, it's basically, this whole thing is just kind of hit me hard. Hit mining hard. If, like I said, if Turing was an actual, legitimate, good generational, like, increase in performance, the 2000 series was the actual good generational increase in performance, people would have bought it. They would have bought it, and miners would have bought it, and, like, the fucking derp fucktards that came in January and February when everything was on a downhill trend, they would have been shit out of luck. They would have had to sell their hardware and then buy new stuff, and they probably would have been too stupid to prep for that. And actually, like, I didn't even sell my old hardware because I didn't need to. Well, I kind of need to now because everything is just one, you know, belly tits up right now, one belly up. But, like, there's no reason for me to upgrade to Turing. There really isn't a reason for me to upgrade to Turing. And of course, a handful of secrets as far as cryptocurrency mining goes, I still keep close to my heart. That's one of the things that you guys, if you ever get into crypto, one of the things that you actually learn to value the most is intelligence. And I don't mean like being smart, I mean knowing things that no one else knows, because the moment it gets out there, it spreads like fucking wildfire. And I've had it happen, and I'm not just saying this as a hypothetical, I've had it happen on so many occasions where I've said things and, like, you don't even get sourced anymore. It's like talking about shit on Twitch, and then it just spreads out. But you never, like, unless you have a ton of people watching you, you can say, no, Ben Sam said that. Ben Sam talked about that last week or something like that. It's just like he didn't even say it in the first place, so you don't get credit for it. You don't get rewards from it for knowing it yourself and no one else knowing it, and you just, like, you get the slap in the face of eventually having someone else going, oh, look at this, guys, this is so great, and everyone goes, oh, you're such a nice guy, oh boy, oh, look at you. No, pat you on the back, because basically they have more people watching. It's kind of one of the down shitty things at Twitch. Like with Fortnite, I've talked about developments that they're doing in the game well before they actually do them or announce them, simply because the game requires them and needs it. It's like, it's very logical and intuitive if you actually think about things and go through the thought process and don't just be super objective and biased. Bipartisan, but that's only two parties. But yeah, it's like Turing was just a shit the bed. That was a big turd too. Like, this isn't a small thing. They invested a ton of money. Turing, like, making new GPUs is not a small task, and it wasn't Like, if they really want to do ray tracing, they should have made a secondary adapter that you buy. And they didn't, like a daughter board you can buy that you plug into your ray tracing video card that you can also buy and plug into your PC. But they didn't. They wanted to integrate it into their GPUs so everyone has it, but then they didn't give anyone really a better performance for the same price. They didn't give it to us for free, and they're making everyone swallow it. So, I mean, obviously that aids in adoption because it's just available, but the price at which it was available to everyone was huge. There wouldn't be nearly as many people buying ray tracing boards compared to like, just their video cards. And that's kind of a problem with adoption too, a chicken and egg sort of thing. But just like the amount of effort they spent on it, they just basically shit an entire generation of GPUs away. And the 3X series is probably still going to be invested in ray tracing, and it's not going to be till the 4X, which is in about 4.5 years, 4 years from now, because we're 6 months into Turing. So about 4 years from now, before they actually have a generation that either will know where ray tracing is going, or they just won't have ray tracing cores on their GPUs and maybe do an intermediary solution where the GPUs just can do it really well, but they don't have ray tracing cores. Anyways, yeah, like cryptocurrency, yeah, Slane, I don't know if that answered your question, dude, but Slane, are you still mining? Yes, I am. Should you mine right now? No, do not mine right now, and I'm not just saying that to keep all the preciouses to myself. Don't do it. Definitely don't do it. Despite, there's tons, the people making money right now are the people selling hardware, the people making software, not hardware, not miners, software developers, people making the miners that run on the miners, because you have no hardware cost, you have a time cost, and obviously you have a super specialized set of skill set. Those are the people really making money right now, are the software developers, and people also doing other specialized software development like exchanges, for instance. Exchanges make a lot of fucking money. A lot of fucking money. Of course, they also lose a lot of money. Specifically, if your CEO is the only one that knows the password to the cold wallets, and he dies and takes it with him. Not making this shit up, by the way. One of the exchanges, the Canadian exchange, lost, what are they, like 1.3 billion? 113 million? Something weird. And CEO dies. Password. I'm not making this shit up, guys. Like I said, everything in crypto, as you would think of, has happened in crypto, leaving 145 million. They gave him, like, he was the only one at his company with the password for the fucking cryptocurrency cold wallets, and he died. Like, what the fuck? Who does this? Like, this is like I said, people in crypto, some people are just really fucking stupid. Like, some of them can be really smart too. Like, it's like a combination of just lack of intelligence and then like super specialized intelligence where they're only good at one very specific thing and they lack common sense. Just holy fuck, guys. Yeah, this happened in the beginning of February. This isn't May. They did lose all this money. They announced that they can't actually recover this. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. No other place in the world does shit like this happen, guys, except crypto. Part of why I love it, though, is just so fucking weird. Crypto is so weird, guys. It always keeps you on your toes. It's always so fucking random. Just so you wouldn't think something like this would happen, but it did happen. Yeah, you'd think something. You would think it'd be running down his napkin on his desk or something. No, he just died with his fucking password. Like, you think it'd be written down somewhere in his, like, you know, yeah, in his will or in a safety deposit box somewhere. But you know what happened? No, he just died and took it with him. So, can't wait to get my new glasses in too, by the way. Same glasses, they're just going to have different lenses in them with a different prescription. These glasses make everything feel really trippy, and I have no idea why. I have no idea what it is. Yeah. So if I just have my glasses, like, it could actually be the focal points different on these. It's like weird spots. Anyways, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, fast forward. So we're going to talk a little bit about Season 8. Before I want to talk about that, there's something, like, occasionally exciting things happen, guys, in streaming. I don't really talk about. I also have 2 emote slots that they Twitch unlocked, like, last week. They're available to me, like, for all the streamers. All the small streamers had 2 more emote slots unlocked, so technically I'm probably going to move Beast Kramappa down. Guys, if you have, maybe I'll announce it on Twitter, guys, but if you have any ideas for emotes, or you want to make an emote, I would be most grateful if you actually made one for my channel, because I have 2 emote slots available and nothing in them. 2 whole emote slots! Wow! Wow! Yeah, I don't, you know. I never thought I'd see the day. Basically, welfare emotes at that point. I don't actually know why Twitch ever made it so you only get 2 emotes at a certain level of subscribers. That always blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. But anyways, something else kind of exciting I want to talk about, guys, is NVIDIA NVENC. So something new that happened with Turing. I said Turing was an absolute garbage storm, because it was. However, one thing that they have improved, what is it called? Psycho. Something that actually happened was NVIDIA released, with the new Turing, there is a new built-in encoder. So if you guys haven't known about this, guys, visual tuning. This has kind of been a secret for a while. I don't know why. I don't know why this has been in a secret for a while. But basically for years, you've been able to stream on a single PC using your built-in video or hardware encoder built into your video card. Intel QuickSync, AMD VCE, and NVIDIA NVENC. Downside of these, the order by the way of visual quality was AMD VCE, followed by Intel QuickSync, followed by NVIDIA NVENC. And what these do is basically, with streaming, a lot of people have a secondary PC, a streaming PC, a capture PC, whatever you want to call it. Some people stream for one PC. And what happens is when you send your workload to whatever is encoding it, usually either your main or your secondary PC, your processor on that PC will encode it. Hardware encoding is using a very specific part of a video card that's built for encoding encoding video on the fly, and it makes it very, very fast and very, very smooth, and almost no performance hits. So even though right now, for instance, when I'm streaming on OBS with my current presets on my 1070 processor in my other room, this is on a secondary PC, it'll end up at about 50-60% utilization. Basically, I can't go any higher on the compression preset, or I start getting slow frames and stuff. Anyways, it's complicated, but anyways, you have to use a secondary. If you have a secondary PC, it requires a lot of processing power to be able to do really high resolution, like 1080p at 60 FPS, which is something that's happened more recent on Twitch. It might not sound that way, but it is. It's become common probably in the last 2 years or so. Anyways, you put this workload on your PC. A hardware encoder allows you to code on hardware with almost no performance hit whatsoever. Broadcasting guy, there's something else that actually showed it. So basically, what it does is allows you to use this very specific part of your video card. A lot of news outlets have covered it by now. Very, very specific part of your video card to encode and take almost all the CPU workload off your processor. The downside of using hardware encoding on AMD, Intel, or NVIDIA is it can cause driver issues, it can cause crashes, it can cause stuttering. It's never been a perfect solution. And they've always been improving over time with each new generational leap with GPUs. They've been improving the hardware encoders on them. And NVIDIA was always behind the three, Intel and AMD. Each new generation, generally like 2000 series, 1000 series for AMD and for or NVIDIA, and for AMD, it was like the 480 or 580, the 5XX series, and then Vega had an improved video encoding unit built into it. And they keep improving it marginally with each generation, but it's always been behind CPU encoding. However, with the latest generation of GPUs from NVIDIA, they have a newer, improved version of encoder built into their RTX GPUs. And what this is not only does it improve the performance of it, meaning you can encode at higher bit rates, or not higher bit rates, higher resolution at higher FPS, which is kind of, it's like bandwidth, imagine bandwidth, which is a lot to do with your resolution and your FPS of your resolution. It encodes at higher resolution and higher FPS, but the compression is better. Where before, these hardware encoders, the three hardware encoders that I mentioned, even at AMD, you're looking at about using 20% more bit rate for the very fast preset, which is a basic level preset. So in order to get the same performance as my streaming PC with this hardware encoder, I had to use 20% more bit rate, which is really, that's what we're limited by on Twitch. You can't just throw tons of bit rate at everyone. And it's not because people can't get it. That used to be the old excuse because everyone has transcoders. Majority of partner streams have transcoders. Actually, all partner streams have transcoders. It's not just the receiving end of the stream. It's also, you as a streamer are limited to 8 megs as your max. They say 6. Actually, I don't think anywhere it says 6. That's like, OBS has always been really weird with how they've regarded Twitch as having this kind of soft cap when they've never even mentioned it. If OBS, or if not OBS, if Twitch didn't want you using that bandwidth, they'd stop you from using what they do. And I don't know, OBS has always been this really fucking weird place. I've never really understood it. It got, like, OBS was kind of nice when it first came out, and then, like, the project was really open, and then, like, bureaucracy set in, and, like, the staff and everything became really polarized, and agendas started coming to light about what should happen and what ways it should happen, and who was on the good side, and who sucked whose dick, and who gave who a hand job. One of those things, basically like every forum in existence, right? That started to set in and kind of lost way. Basically, the majority of advancements in OBS came when it was first released, and then they added a couple things. AMD VCA, for instance, wasn't even released by OBS; it's released by someone else that made it, and they released a fork of OBS with VCE built into it. Anyways, shit talking OBS aside, hardware encoding on OBS. Basically, you had to use 20% more bitrate, and I segued there for a bit. You have to use 20% more bitrate, which is something everyone is limited by on Twitch, so I can't just throw 20% more bitrate at you guys, or at Twitch, because that means basically I'll have 20% less quality. Essentially, for the same amount of bitrate, I have less quality. It's an efficiency thing, right? And you can change that with compression, and the more compression you need, obviously you need better hardware to do it. And now with Turing, this has actually reached the point of comparable video quality with a medium preset on OBS with the X264 software encoder. So basically, with this, what I can do with the CPU at medium preset is the kind of quality you can expect out of this built-in encoder on an RTX, which is fucking good. That basically means if you have a single PC and an RTX video card in it, it actually ups the quality immensely for you. And not only that, they also reduce the performance impact of it as well. It was already very low. NVENC performance impact is already very low. As you can see here, 11% performance hit. Like when I was in streaming with NVENC and I was looking at CPU utilization with my 8700K, for instance, when I was using it at 1080p at 60, OBS was using roughly about 8% of my processor. So basically you can look at this and take 66% of that improvement. So instead of 8%, it'll probably be about 3% utilization, which is close to nothing. I still, by the way, will not stream with a single PC setup, even though you can do it now with NVENC. because as I mentioned, there's weird things that happen with hardware encoding, such as stalls, driver crashes. Games do not always, like when parts of your GPU are being utilized, they don't always operate very well together. It's not really a kosher relationship where they all respect each other's boundaries. And once, if something oversteps its boundaries, if you play a weird game with a weird implementation of DirectX or something that uses a weird extension or something different. Anyways, there's a lot of things that go on in gaming. If you have something weird that happens and it steps on the dick of the encoder crashes, you lose your stream. And that's kind of a big deal for a lot of big streamers. So I'll never stream from a single PC setup. It's kind of weird. I've talked about this over the years, not specifically about Turing and this upgrade right now, this update right now. However, I've talked about hardware encoding, and it's been available for 5 years. It's been available on Twitch for a long time. I basically had a streaming PC, a capture PC. Before I got a streaming PC, sounds like I just have one PC that's. I have a capture PC, and I basically had a capture PC before hardware encoding was available. It was something I pushed for really hard on the OBS forums, and it happened after I bought the hardware necessary to make a secondary PC for encoding, basically an encoding PC, capture PC. But anyways, hardware encoding has always been something that's been around, even though it's actually really weird that OBS and other streamers don't really know about it. This is a big deal, by the way, because there's a lot of news headlines about this, because it is a really big deal, which is what we're talking about right now. I'm just kind of setting the stage for it, talking about this, because there's a lot of streamers that are on one PC, and they don't really know about hardware encoding. It's very, very weird. It's not specifically because it's an option, like, just people don't understand the options in OBS, and they don't know what to turn on. It is one of these really weird settings that almost no one's looked at. Even though if you're a small starting streamer, it helps you a lot. It helps you immensely. Because it means you can get higher FPS off a single PC. That's a big deal. Anyways, with Turing, not only did they improve the performance of it, which is kind of nice if you're on a single PC. I don't care because I have a capture PC, right? This isn't what I'm interested in. However, they've improved the efficiency of their encoder. So basically, NVIDIA now has a better encoder than... They basically have an X264 preset for their hardware encoder. It is insanely good. Insanely good. Medium preset, as I mentioned, is basically the efficiency at which it's the amount of work that your GPU, it's compressibility, the amount of compression that your the encoder, whatever it is, hardware or software, can use to actually stuff as much bitrate into the same packet size, or same bitrate, quality into the bitrate, quality to bitrate relationship. Let's look at it that way. It's the quality to the bitrate relationship. The efficiency is much higher. So at medium preset, it makes everything look a lot better. The higher the preset you go, it goes medium, slower, and then I think it's placebo. There's like presets underneath it, and it's not linear. It doesn't keep going up compression-wise. It kind of tapers off, and medium is essentially the sweet spot. It really doesn't get much better in terms of quality for the bitrate. However, I personally cannot stream at a medium preset. I am stuck at not very fast. Very fast is the basic one. I'm stuck at faster. I think is one below very fast. I can check real quick, because whenever I tried streaming at medium at 1080p at 60, whenever I got into firefights or really high motion scenes, best way to describe it, faster, yeah, is what I meant. It goes very fast. There's ones less than very fast, by the way. Very fast, faster, fast, medium, slow, slower, very slow, and placebo. And whenever I tried fast or medium, I tried fast for a little bit, I'd end up with CPU overload, which basically, if you get 100% CPU utilization with OBS, you start dropping frames and everything turns into a stutter show. It's like one of the first things you learn. You overtax the encoder, overtax the CPU, guys, it'll start stuttering. People had problems with that with Apex, because Apex isn't very good at managing its resources on the computer level, which is why you don't have an uncapped FPS. It's not that the game can't do it. As you guys have seen, I've uncapped my FPS and the game handles it perfectly. It's rather the game isn't able to balance its workload and not just eat all your CPU resources. And when your primary computer that you're playing games on reaches 100% utilization, everything starts stuttering, and it all just turns into a slideshow. And it's not just for the people watching your channel. If you're encoding off one PC, it's also for you as a player. You'll start just jerking, stuttering, and shit. But basically, it's one of the first things people realized when they're playing Apex Legends was the game used a lot of your CPU cycles, and as such, basically, there's tons of people with really shitty streams for a while during Apex Legends. That has changed, by the way. For instance, Summit bought a brand new PC. He bought a secondary PC. He's used one for basically since he started streaming. He's been streaming off one single PC for since time began. He had like a 10-core CPU, but it's still not enough to take the burden off everything. At the end of the day, like, Apex Legends just fucking nommed the shit out of their cycles, and then they got stuttering on their stream. So that's one of the things that streamers really fixed really fast, was they just went and bought a secondary PC. But with something like this, basically, there's no performance hit anymore on your GPU. If everything works out perfectly, which it doesn't, in my personal experience using the hardware encoders, it doesn't. However, it is a very good intermediary solution if you can't afford another PC. But a lot of people ended up having to go and buy a secondary PC. This performance hit definitely helps, or this performance impact definitely helps with it, with the improved performance hit. Yes. But this is what I'm really interested in right here, which is the fact that I can't stream in a medium preset at 1080p at 60. So even though I'm capable, or even though I have a secondary PC, my processor isn't fast enough. And I possibly could pop it up to a medium preset, because when I first got my 1700, overclocking was not very stable on the 1700 or the Ryzen platform. They got that all ironed out probably a year ago. It's been out for a while, so they've gotten ironed out for quite a long time already. A year and a half ago. The 2000 series has been out for like a year and a half, so a long time. Anyways, I never had a reason to overclock my CPU again. I tried initially, and then it kept locking up, and I just said fuck it, so it said stock. I potentially could overclock my CPU and get a medium preset out of it. However, there's a couple other things that are actually added to... This is actually a pretty big deal. There's a couple other things that are added to NVIDIA RTX besides the fact that it can basically encode a qualitatively at a medium preset visually for the same bitrate. Right here it shows your bitrate graph. It's kind of quality gains. Yes, an R, which is a metric for measuring quality. Not perfect, by the way. Better quality in the most challenging situations, such as high motion scenes. Yes, high motion scenes are always the hardest. So right here you can see basically the part that you look for as far as quality is, like, a single picture is not everything, but it's the edges of weapons. Like right here you can see her fingers. It's the details you start losing. It starts looking blocky and cheesy right along the edges here, guys. Notice you can't stream at 1080. I have you at 360. Yeah, that's if you can't watch my stream at 1080, that's on your end. This is my end. This is the encoding end. This is where it all begins. This is the encoding, basically the encoding preset, and this is X264 fast, which isn't even the basic. The basic one's very fast, which this is what I'm encoding at. So you can see here when there's any sort of subtleties in the picture, it starts to lose it. It starts turning grainy. It starts blocking. The colors start to get saturated and weird looking. Basically, visual artifacts is what happens. And right here, you can basically see that RTX just makes it look better, right? Is the takeaway. But it's not just RTX. There's a couple things that are actually happening here. Yep, I see. Yeah, it's basically what I just pointed out. Twitch recommends. We aren't going to watch that, because fuck that. That's another broadcaster, I'm pretty sure. It's not specifically just this. There's also two things that they added to it called psycho-visual tuning, which is just a buzzword. And then also, the other one is adaptive or dynamic B-frames. What dynamic B-frames are is every once in a while you have to insert a B-frame into your broadcast. This is getting technical, by the way, guys. Essentially, every now and then you have to insert a B-frame, and a B-frame is very bandwidth heavy, meaning it uses a lot of bitrate to insert a B-frame. But if things are moving really fast, it gets all out of whack, you have to insert B-frames in order to actually realign the picture. It's hard to describe. I don't fully understand how framing works in However, B-frames are something that's used to basically help anchor your broadcast, anchor your frames, so that everything stays in line. It's like it's a baseline for visual quality, and every now and then it uses this anchor point. Dynamic B-frames will adjust up and down when it inserts the B-frames into your broadcast based on the amount of action that's happening. So it will potentially make the picture look a lot better in slow motion scenes and then turn up the B-frames in high action scenes where you need them. So basically you have a trade-off where it can make things look a lot crisper when you otherwise wouldn't have it available. That's really fucking cool. And the other end of it is called psychovisual tuning, guys. And what psychovisual tuning is it's more specific with the encoder than just B-frames. It's very hard to describe, but and I'm gonna absolutely butcher it. But basically, like details that you would notice, like parts of the picture, it actually uses the cores on the GPU to actually like highlight parts of the picture that you as a human would otherwise find. Like, it doesn't waste detail. It takes detail it actually spend on like background images or something, and it'll actually add more detail to things that matter, like grass or you know, faces, things that actually pop out as you as a person, not specifically as a machine. Like we described earlier, we talked about quality gains here at PSNR. This is a qualitative benchmark. This is a metric, but metrics are not always correlative to human sensory, right? So psychovisual tuning, which is just a buzzword, is basically their attempt to use AI to improve your ability to use bandwidth based on what you have on your screen, which is also very, very fucking cool. So those two things, dynamic B-frames and psychovisual tuning, in addition to the hardware encoder, just basically having a medium baseline for no performance penalty. Like, this is actually really, really fucking cool. So what I've got, I have one in the mail right now, is I ordered an RTX, guys. I have one in the mail right now. No, it's not going in my main PC. I'm going to still use an 1080 Ti. Everything I've read says a 1660 Ti, which is the most basic video card that NVIDIA offers that's RTX, has this built in. We'll see, because I didn't buy the... It doesn't have tensor cores, which are the AI programming, the AI logic. It doesn't have tensor cores. It's not AI logic, by the way. It's like math. It's like a certain way to do math matrices or something weird. It doesn't have tensor cores, and it doesn't have ray tracing cores built in. That was the one downside going to 2060 to a 1660 Ti, is even though 1660 Ti sounds like it's Pascal, it's not, it's Turing. It's a step down. It's about equivalent to 1070 if you're playing games, by the way. But it has this all built in. Supposedly has this all built in. We'll see. However, everything I read says it does. And what's going to happen is I'm going to put it in my PC. I'm going to put it in my streaming PC. Because when you're streaming, guys, when you're playing games, OBS in and of itself and scenes that you put on top of, like my webcam, which is 1080p at 60, uses an additional 20% of my processor just by having it on. It's actually really weird. This also can do 4K at 30, but I have that turned off right now. But it can do 1080p at 60. So basically, I'm going to put this into my other PC in the other room, and I'm going to use it for encoding. Which is, I never thought this was going to be a thing, but it's entirely possible. I deal with crypto all the time, guys, and there's lots of really weird things that CUDA and OpenCL are used for. And of course, when it comes to really intricate programming, like using built-in encoder. Apparently this was available. I've known about this for a long time, but it hasn't actually had any application for a while. I didn't know OBS has had a beta client out for this since January. I didn't know about it since the end of January. I didn't know about it, otherwise I would have bought one sooner. Use it, because I know that, like right off the bat, guys, I know this is kind of a game changer for quality right here. So possibly, I think, hopefully I'll get it on Saturday, but if I don't, I'll have it on Monday. So possibly by Monday's night, we'll have a better stream, or Saturday night, I'll have a better stream here. Just by playing games. very cool shit, guys. I don't always get excited about streaming hardware. There's tons of people that waste a bunch of money on like fucking microphones and shit, and it doesn't really matter. Once you upgrade to like an XLR, that's like the start of the beginning. And then there's people that buy $1,000 mixer boards and you know $500 monster cables and stupid shit. You don't need it. None of that shit you really need, and it's just for show and bling. You don't really need an expensive. This is a $50 Behringer. You can get a lot of really nice microphones for under $100. You really don't need it, but this is one of the things that does matter. And something I have done for a while, guys, something, by the way, I have done, no one noticed, but back when I streamed Overwatch, for a while I was doing 900 at 120 FPS. No one really noticed that, but I was doing that, and I eventually turned it off because really no one noticed it, and 1080p was a better benchmark than, at 60 was a better benchmark than 900p at 120. Because you need to have a high refresh rate monitor to actually see it. And yes, you can cast to Twitch at 120 FPS. Yes, you can do it. Yes, Twitch supports it. No, it won't show it properly, as in the stats won't show it properly. It always shows 60. But if you put it into any sort of analysis program, it shows that you're receiving 120 FPS. So it is available on Twitch, and something I hope to revisit once again with this right here, because this is actually kind of cool. And if I can do 120 FPS at 1080p, at medium, oh boy, that's something no one else is doing, and I hope to be doing it again. So yeah, it sounds like your PC can't support it, Alan. Kind of weird. If you don't have hardware acceleration turned on in your web browser, that would also do it. I do also use, if you're on mobile, if you're on mobile, Alan, I know there's something weird with mobile and my stream. That is because I use surround sound as well. What good that does me. You receive my sound in surround sound because I have a surround sound set up. I do stream in surround sound. But that could be fucking up too. If you're on mobile, I would be interested to hear about that. But that's definitely either your hardware doesn't support what I'm streaming at, or you're on mobile. Mobile, I've heard weird things, and I think that mainly relates to my surround sound. Yeah, almost no channel streaming in surround sound. I think I'm one of the very, very few that streams in surround sound. Very, very, very few. Mainly because everyone uses headphones, so. Yeah, surround sound, 5.1. 5 speakers, and a sub. Also something I've actually considered taking off because it uses bitrate. Basically, I have to sacrifice some of my bitrate to do that. And there aren't that many people with surround sound setups, so even if they have one, it doesn't really come through, and I actually have to do a little finagling to get it to work in the. But I know there's a surround sound, an issue with surround sound and mobile. No, no one does surround sound. Just like no one does 1080p. Well, almost no one does 1080p at 120. Almost no one does. Because once again, the performance hit for that sort of thing is insane, which is why I had to do 900 at 120 FPS. I couldn't 1080p at 60, or 1080p at 120 used way too much processing power. Yeah. Are you on mobile? It's only a problem with mobile. Normal frames are smaller because they contain the difference between the B frame and the last one. Yes. But yeah, if you don't have, one thing you can do is open up Task Manager and then look at the amount of CPU utilization like Twitch is. Will be under Chrome. I assume you're using Chrome. Edge, I also believe, has hardware encoding built in. It could be your drivers are installed improperly. Oh yeah, that's mobile. They have their own apps. That would be why. That's probably because you're yeah, that's probably a problem with their mobile app. It probably can't do surround sound properly. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so basically my visual quality settings don't matter to you because you can't watch me. There aren't many people that watch from consoles though. Like, you probably could pull me up on your PC and I'll be fine. Or maybe even on mobile. They might have fixed the bug with mobile too. You could try pulling me up your phone and see if it works fine. think it might even be just like iPhones. It was something, or Android. You know. Oh God, you have to follow me. Oh boy, not a follow. Anyways, this is something new and interesting, guys. I don't normally talk about my streaming setup because nothing's really changed, to be perfectly honest. Nothing's been changed in probably a year and a half or so. Basically, since I got my 1700, and that was like 2017. So, it's basically been a while. There's almost nothing's changed with my hardware setup, my visual setup, and of course, at the end of 18, I wasn't really streaming much, and even this year, I'm not really streaming much. And right now, I'm trying to juggle fucking snow. It just fucking shits snow. Like, today it's supposed to snow again. It's like 2 to 4 inches today. Means I have to go fucking blow driveways again. Oh, good. Thank you for your pennies. I appreciate it. That's one thing you can't ever turn off as a streamer, is the opening ad. But yeah. Something you possibly could do on your mobile is, instead of using, I assume there's a Twitch app on the PlayStation, is go to the web browser on your PlayStation and go to the mobile website of Twitch, because it uses a different player. So you might actually be able to fix it by going to the Twitch website on your PlayStation instead of the Twitch app. Another way to get around that. But anyways. So apparently this optimization patch actually is for older generations. The quality, the performance quality, is specific to RTX GPU. So in order to get this quality, this improvement in quality, you have to have an RTX, which is I ordered one. So yeah, it's the app. We're in two small niches here, dude. You're using a console app, and I'm using surround sound. Yeah. Like, the two weird things just don't, like, because you have, like, the person who makes the console app has to watch a surround sound stream to realize something's broken, and the person that makes surround sound has to figure out to make it compatible with probably something more to do with the app than streaming surround sound. Almost no one does surround sound, though. Yeah, it's my surround sound. Not that it's going to transmix it. It's going to transmute it to stereo because you only have 2 speakers. But if you get a surround sound setup, which you can hook your PlayStation up to. Well, PlayStation can be hooked up to surround sound. Basically, I can play surround sound, which matters more in games. Right now, it's going around me right now. That's surround sound. Yeah. Submit a bug report. Get it fixed. I am like the 0.1% on Twitch that uses surround sound. Almost no one uses surround sound. I mean, if you actually have, it's not actually that uncommon anymore to watch streams on a surround sound system, so it actually wouldn't be far-fetched to assume someone has a console hooked up to a surround sound system in their living room. No. Yep. Almost no one uses that. Or if they do use it, they have surround sound headphones. Speakers setups are pretty uncommon. But if they do have surround sound, they'll have surround sound headphones, which have multiple speakers built into the surround sound, or into their head. But then they don't have a way of streaming it to Twitch, so even if they have it set up, they'll downmix it to stereo before sending it to Twitch, which is what I used to do. I used to downmix from surround sound to stereo, and then I sent it to Twitch. However, I thought it'd be cool to stream in surround sound, because I could, and then I did. And it really hasn't. It basically eats like an extra meg your bit rate up, 768 kilobits up. Noms the shit out of that, which is a loss in visual quality, unfortunately. I'm streaming to surround sound. Another one of those niche things, guys. But anyways, kind of the weird thing is, like, people with this, for instance, that have a surround sound system probably will not have 120 FPS monitors. So if I stream in 1080p at 120. That probably means they aren't going to get the benefit of surround sound. And people that have a surround sound people that have surround sound set up to their like Chromecast or their PS4 probably do not have a TV that can display 120 hertz because there's almost no TVs that do that. So, like, in order to get the full experience, you basically have to have a surround sound set up on your desktop and have a high refresh rate monitor, I guess. So, but we'll see. This is gonna be on Monday or Saturday night because I ordered on Friday. Friday is the worst day to order hardware. I ordered earlier tonight. Friday's the worst day. It's like everyone goes on vacation as far as shipping goes. So, even though I got like 1 day shipping, it probably isn't going to show up until Monday night, even though Amazon ships on Saturday. No. Like I said, try it in a web browser. Try loading the website in the web browser. But anyways, this is really cool, guys. This is something I've been looking forward to. If I knew about this, I've known about the improvements in RTX since the release back in August last year, but OBS moves really slow, and I didn't know they're working with NVIDIA. However, I would have basically gotten a GPU back in January had I known about it. So, this is still something in the works right now. This is released. I heard about this specifically because of the OBS release on. They announced it in their version update, but the beta version of this has been available since late January. OBS NVENC update. Yeah. January 8th. This is back in February 8th, and he said 2008 Ti NVENC looks worse than medium. Very fast. One thing I really wish they added to OBS is H.265, and they haven't done that. They could have done that at release, and they didn't do that because no one allows it, but it's like a chicken and egg thing. OBS, it's one of the things I actually asked for. And their logic is no one allows you to stream. YouTube does, by the way, allows you to stream at H.265. But it's one of those things where if you don't have software to stream it, then you can't stream it. Then the websites won't actually get demand for them to wait for it to be streamed to them. And as such, it's a chicken and egg. It just goes in a really fucking weird shit. They worked on their was it Classic? No, not Classic. They worked on OBS Redux or whatever it's called for a long fucking time. It's just a waste of effort because people wanted it on Linux and shit. Crazy. Basically, features that didn't really help anyone except for all very vocal minority. Like I said, OBS has had this really fucking weird ass shit going on with them, which is why I don't really visit OBS ever anymore. I used to visit a lot when I started streaming. hardware encoder overload. That's because they're streaming from the same GPU that they're coding from. Yeah, so this is basically available since January. Could have used this for 2 months, guys. PS4 web browser is a pain in the ass. I don't even think it runs Flash anymore. Twitch doesn't use Flash. It uses HTML5. The more you know. They transitioned to HTML5 probably 2 years ago. I think you can still load the Flash player on Twitch. It's just difficult to do. Older, antiquated web browsers. And it was for a while. The Flash player was better than the Twitch player, or the HTML5 player. Layer ooze. Yeah, some of the weird shit with not really weird, but it is a pain in the ass using web browser from console settings like a couch or something like that. However, with more modern TVs or some modern TVs and devices, they allow you to use an app to access the TV, and then you can use the keyboard on your mobile device to actually use the web browser, which actually works pretty fucking good. Or you can plug a mouse and keyboard directly into your TV. I think this is available in 1050. A couple of these settings aren't. This is old though. This is all old news. Oh yeah. Alright guys, moving on. That's something I actually wanted to discuss. Whoa! That was a tab that I had open that I wanted to look at. Don't think... It suggests 12 megs. Or 1080p at 60. Out of bit rate. I guess if you want a perfect picture. Obviously, this pertains to streaming from a single PC. I had that on. There's actually, it's kind of weird, guys. Windows Game Mode is something that's still up in the air as far as people figuring out whether or not it actually does anything, if it helps or not. Kind of still an area of contention, a point of contention. Like, really, metrics to prove the way it goes. It's almost like a placebo. High GPU load. This is kind of, so some things here are still require the GPU, and it's not just built in. So I really hope that 1660 Ti is fast enough to take advantage of all of the enhancements. Best I can tell, it is, because it is basically 1070, give or take. A little bit less than that, 1000, somewhere between 1060 and 1070. As far as like brute performance, gaming performance is around 1070. I might end up sending it back and getting a 2060 instead, depending on how well this works. This enables rate distortion optimization in the encoder, which greatly optimizes the way you use bitrate, improving the image quality on movement. As look ahead, it's CUDA accelerated, so high GPU load can give you problems turn it off if that's your case. So if you're actually streaming from a single PC, it's not something you want to have on. But because I have a streaming PC already, we're looking to enhance my capture PC. I can just leave all the shit turned on. Oh, this gives me a hard on, guys, just thinking about this. People won't know why, except you guys. Except you guys will know the secrets to my great-looking stream, which doesn't really look that way right now, but it will, maybe. Cool. Can't wait, guys. I'm actually excited for this. This is something I am very much excited for, guys. So that's coming up. Who goes down? What? Talking about Idlewin. Oh, my stream title? We're talking about viewership and hype associated with Apex Legends. That's where that came from. Can't remember where my words are coming from, guys. That's a problem. But first, we're going to look at Season 8. They're just like straight up fucking... This is totally like Lifeline. She even has kind of very similar hairdo, which is the ball thing on her head. They just... Dude, they just went to town with, like, they just took, like, all the good things from Apex Legends, and then they put them into Fortnite, which is... They're heavily considering the respawn system, and they already instituted pings into the game, and then they're adding some cosmetic things like Lifeline. A fucking hottie, by the way. Oh, God. He's a fucking hottie. good stuff. It's actually kind of surprised that it's... Oh, they haven't really had a black female character. Although she's, I think, I'd vote on East Indian, but she could be black. It could go either way. They're also cartoons, so who knows? I mean, they have an elf over here who's obviously teal. Or beige or something. Not beige, teal. Season 8 Battle Pass. Let's watch the propaganda. You guys ready for the propaganda? Volcano.
Adventure awaits in the Season 8
Hey, look, a
Battle
cannon
Pass.
from Sea of Thieves.
The Battle Pass features over 100 unique cosmetics to earn as you level it up. When you first buy the pass,
Your pixels till you meet them in real life.
brand new
I'd win.
progressive outfits, Blackheart and Hybrid. Plus, if you opt in for the Battle Bundle, you'll instantly get Sidewinder as well. There are 100 tiers and over 100 rewards to earn, including new wraps, pets, emotes, and more. Remember, you keep all your rewards after the season ends. New in this season to all players is the Party Assist feature. Before a match, you can pick a daily or weekly challenge, and your friends can help you complete it. The Season 8 Battle Pass is
people
available
that
right
thought
now
Apex
for
Legends
just
was gonna kill
950
Fortnite.
V-Bucks. A new adventure awaits in Season 8. We'll see you in-game.
She's the new mascot for this season. Look at this person this season character. All their intro, the theming, set the theming. Anyways, we aren't going to play Fortnite. I'm definitely playing Apex Legends tonight. However, interesting stuff to go over. The new theming for Season 8 is like volcano, tropical kind of pirates. You guys saw in the video. That's all basically these patches are. Everyone gets super excited for the next season, but that's all basically it is a cosmetic update to the game. In general, you really don't start to see the changes to the game until later on in the season when they start doing balancing changes, so it really doesn't matter all that much. As you can see here, the big things, they removed the X-Wing, which everyone was, jerking off about, was Stormwing. Oh god, oh god, oh my god, there's an airplane, I have to move, oh no. It's kind of weird. Like, people always look for something to bitch about in Fortnite. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about earlier. Back in Season 7, not Season 7, the end of Season 6, back before the Season 7 started, when they introduced the sword, when everything was at status quo. This is actually like something I was thinking about like 2 hours ago. I got off sidetracked. We were talking about this 2 hours ago. Not 2 hours ago. Yeah, about 2 hours ago. Was back when everyone thought the game was balanced. Back in beginning of Season 7, before the sword came out, before Season 7 started. Everyone's like, this is so good, this is so great. And, I've never enjoyed the game so much in my life because it's all pump and peak all over again. Everyone loves pump and peak. That's the thing that they jerk off about, is pump and peak. Then they started bitching about explosives. They always find something to bitch about, guys. Always. And they're the same explosives that were in the game, but they still bitched about them because they died to them. It's like whatever kills them the most is what they'll bitch about. And like I mentioned before, Fortnite is in kind of locked in now because they can't really attack the spam build meta because then they just get shit on by all the streamers. So my solution at the time that I've talked about before is basically they have to make a classic mode for the game. So they split the game in two, to where people that want to play a more standard game can still play like a classic, and they'll still add all the cosmetics to the game, but relatively it doesn't change at all. So something very static. And then for everyone else, they have like the normal game mode. So they have a classic and a normal game mode. So you have everyone that bitches about new things that are added to the game go play classic, and then in the standard game mode, you just have everything that they add, like X-Wings and new weapons and all the shit that just makes people freak out about it. Basically, right now, they're kind of locked in, though, as far as what they can do to attack spam build meta, because everyone considers the only skill in the game to be spam building. So that's where Fortnite's at, and that's the only way they'll ever be able to get away from that now. From now on, is basically to split off the game into two game modes, which is classic and standard. Classic, or they even introduced it for a little bit when they had like the 20 days of what was it called? The 20 days of Fortnite Miss or something, where they basically had a new limited time mode, and they had introduced the classic game mode, which they changed the name of. There's a lot of really quick changes to that, and I'm pretty sure that was after I talked about the classic game mode on my stream. Pretty confident there are either people from Fortnite, maybe not anymore because I haven't really been streaming much and I've been playing Apex Legends, but I'm pretty confident at one point there were people either from the development team or their intelligence gathering unit. I'm sure they have people basically designated to watch streams and get a heartbeat on the community. Like, that's all they do, who watched my stream and then introduce ideas that I talk about to actual people in development, or there's other streamers that also watch my stream who then talked about the same things I've talked about, and then it reached the developers. Either way, there's plenty of shit throughout the years that I was streaming Fortnite, throughout the months that I was streaming Fortnite, that were added to the game and changed before they even happened or were talked about. Well, I'm pretty confident there's some sort of relationship there. I don't actually know. I don't know. There's definitely someone watches my stream, some way, shape, or form. Or someone from my stream who's a mod in someone else's stream talks about it on their stream, and then a developer finds out about it. It's something like that. There's way too many coincidences that have happened on my stream. Unfortunately, because I'm a small streamer, it doesn't fucking matter, and everyone just thinks I'm crazy, because obviously, yeah, there's no way that anyone could ever watch a stream on Twitch, so obviously a small streamer, there's no way someone could watch your stream. But if you've been on my stream for long enough, you've seen things. Same thing happened with Overwatch, although not to nearly the same extent as with Fortnite when I was streaming that game. Sometimes you're just really good at thinking about things for games. Sometimes, guys, some things. Yeah, fuck you, Idwin. You were here. You were here. You can't do that. You can't fucking do that. You know it's true. You've been here. Do you think Apex will get updated as often as Legend? Yes. Or not Legend, Fortnite. Yes. However, will they be able to address the things that need to be addressed in their game, which will have a negative, that will receive negative initial impact, such as the gun balance being fucking terrible, gunplay being terrible, the lack of cone of fire or meaningful recoil on weapons being terrible? There's a lot of things the game needs and will receive negative feedback because everyone assumes that the only skill in video games is aiming. Like, that's like we're just talking about the only skill in Fortnite being building. The only skill in video games is aiming, obviously, right? So if Shroud starts doing worse at the game and Dizzy starts doing worse in the game, then obviously the game's just broken and there's no way the game's good or fun or different. But, I mean, Apex Legends is already dying. Their hype is wearing out because the gunplay is very, very, very mediocre. It's very boring. It's very repetitive. It's always the same weapons. And they can add all the weapons in the world, and they'll still always end up basically at the top DPS weapons and the ones that are very controllable, and top DPS and reload. So, like a Spitfire, for instance, will always be the try-hard weapons. So you'll add fun new things, basically like Fortnite's stuck right now. They'll add fun new things like a fireworks box that does almost no damage to structures. And whoa, look at it, it's so cool. And then just basically no one picks it up or uses it. And that's a very boring game. So, Apex Legends, for instance, I play it, it's fun. But once that new car smell starts to wear off and you start to realize that basically you're using the same weapons over and over again, like you just start kind of, it loses its appeal. And it's already doing that on Twitch. Obviously, like earlier we were just talking about this, viewership on Twitch is fading. Not that Twitch is the end-all, be-all of metrics in the world, but it's generally a heartbeat on what the community wants. Viewership has fallen, and of course the streamership has fallen, which is the amount of people streaming games has fallen over the last week or so. And Fortnite is starting to catch up, where Fortnite has maintained a very solid about 60,000 viewers. This is starting to climb again with Season 8. I mean, obviously during the daytime this was even worse. But this Apex Legends is starting to fade out here. I don't think it'll ever die, but it might. It might die. It's gotten a lot of traction so far. It might just work its way down to PUBG status, but even PUBG has ingrained itself in Twitch. Even though it's actually, I don't think PUBG is a good game. Like Blackout, in my opinion, is just better than PUBG is. It's like an improved version of PUBG, very much along the same line of the way PUBG plays out. It just, people stop streaming it. So, like, there isn't always a rhyme or reason. It's not always what the best games are as the top tier on Twitch. It's just sometimes people make their presence known in PUBG, and then they just want to stream PUBG because it's what they do, you know? Also, she's a fucking hottie. Haven't mentioned that? She's a fucking hottie. She's like the improved version of Lifeline. not so much racial minority, more mainstream, you know, like Beyonce compared to like, I don't know, that's starting to get racist. I don't know. Either way, they made her more mainstream. Compared to Lifeline, where she's from like Africa or something. Zimbabwe? I'm just trying to think where like Mozambique might be a word from. Zimbabwe or something like that, somewhere in Africa. Yeah, but I don't think this is definitely not the end all. There is a lot of exceptions to this, which we talk about all the time. So while you can look at this, you can see where the hype train's going, because streamers don't always set the trend. Oftentimes, despite what they say on their stream, will follow the viewership. So if they get more viewers streaming Fortnite, whatever, they'll play it, and the amount of viewership generally is kind of correlative to the amount of people playing the game. However, not completely, because if you go to something like Steam charts, you'll see a lot of games on there that aren't even on Twitch. We've talked about this before. Which don't even make a presence on Twitch. Like, so many people playing Rainbow Six Siege. There isn't nearly as many people watching that on Twitch as there are playing that. All the way down here. Even though it's actually, there's quite a few people. Warframe is probably one of the biggest outliers. Warframe. And this only pops up when they have one of those things where they do the gifted. You watch a stream and you get drops. They do drops. That's the only time you ever see this player base make a peep, is when they start doing partnered drops on Twitch. Team Fortress 2 does not even exist. Football Manager 2019 really doesn't exist. Rust doesn't exist. Civilization is a series that has never existed on Twitch, ever. Occasionally you'll see it pop up, but this is just like something people don't like watching. It's, even though I actually got my friends into this, by the way. I've played Civ over the years, and just recently, probably in the last 6 months, I've had an ongoing game of Civ at a LAN party. Basically, when everyone else leaves, there's a couple people that stay behind just because we're kind of like the late people. And then we play Civ for like the next 5 hours. And we've had an ongoing game for like the last 5 months or so of Civ 5, by the way, not Civ 6. Civ 6 sucks. Civ 5. It's an ongoing game. Because it's a very chill game. It's something you can just, it's not for everyone, but it's a game you can just play and shoot the breeze with people. Oh, it's just kind of like a whatever sort of thing going on there. A lot of games like that. Like, I think the most people I've ever seen stream this is when a new version of Civ comes out, and it's only a very, very specific niche of Twitch that streams. Like, they had Dan, I think it was ad content. Monster Hunter World doesn't exist on Twitch anymore. Hearts of Iron definitely doesn't exist. Mod Rocket League does. There's another Civ right there. I mean, look how many people are playing Civ. They don't even show up on Twitch, so. Mika, she could be, so. I don't know, you'd have to know the accent, be familiar with the accent. Oh, yeah, she could be. There you go. Insert racial stereotypes here. I really, like, I hope Apex doesn't die, not because there's a lot of people that want Apex to succeed because they hate Fortnite. It's not actually, you should always just be happy with games that are good. I don't understand why people just go out on a limb and start like assaulting other games, like they're somehow ruining things for them or something. I don't really get it. And they're different game companies, you know. I really hope Apex Legends succeeds because it is fun, and I think they have a good kind of solid start. But some of the things that they really need to attack, cheating is another big deal in Apex Legends. Very, very easy to do, and there's people that cheat and stream on Twitch that were caught. Very, very easy to cheat in Apex Legends, but like some of the things that they need to attack, like are going to be very difficult for them, either because of social outcry, like if they attack the weapon differentiation. Basically, all the weapons are the same. There's no bullet drop, damage drop off on the guns. There's bullet drop, damage drop off. There's no damage drop off on the guns, except for the hit scan mode of Havoc for whatever fucking reason. I swear to God, like, I don't know how people, probably because there's no criteria for it, but some people that get game balancing jobs are not very good at it. Like, it takes a very, very special part of someone to not only be unbiased and be completely objective about things, but also be open to plenty of different play styles and not, like, putting aside bias, but also being creative and logical at the same time. It's like all the things that people don't really possess that you really need as someone that's really good at game balancing, and oftentimes people are just really bad at it, and unfortunately that ends up killing the games. What makes up, even if you add all the content in the world, guys, add all the loot boxes, add all the cosmetic skins, if you're not good at game balance, you basically kill the game. Like, the heart and soul, I would say, of a game is the game balance. Whatever game you're playing, in order to make a game fun, it is the balance of the game. It's how it plays out. And Apex Legends right now, despite there being tons of weapons in the game, almost all of them are worthless because they're just, like, they're stat sticks. This is what we talked about before. There's no damage drop-off, so the difference between a pistol and a sniper rifle is nothing, or a shotgun for that matter is nothing. Shotguns are kind of in a little bit weird special place because they have a spray pattern, which actually is accuracy because the pellets spread. So there's a spray pattern and the pellets spread, and that means you'll never actually be able to hit full-on on anyone. ADS does not have a buff for accuracy. It might reduce inertia to the bullets a little bit. But they really just shot themselves in the foot because they made all the guns very, very similar to each other, and then it all comes down to DPS of the weapon itself. The inertia on a wingman, for instance, is very, very minimal, so you can jump around, you know, like do cartwheels with the gun, and it'll almost always hit the target. That's their answer to accuracy, is making some guns need more lead, or actually it's kind of negative lead, where you have to aim. If you're strafing this way, bullets will inherit your inertia, so they'll drift like this. This is the best way to describe it. They'll drift. You can see this in the shooting range. It gets really weird if you do like jumps and strafes in the air. That gets even worse. But you'll see the bullets actually drift behind your target. So if you have someone here and you're strafing, in order to hit them, you have to aim behind them while you're strafing, so the bullets basically smack into them because they're projectiles and they inherit inertia. And some guns have more bullet inertia than inheritance than other guns do. It's something from Tribes. Tribes definitely had it. It's something that was built into Tribes. But it's kind of the answer to the lack of accuracy to weapons. So, you know, obviously if you have an SMG, you make it really inaccurate, so you can't use it to snipe people or use it like an assault rifle, but they didn't do that. So ADS with like an R99, and it's basically an assault rifle with higher damage, so, and no damage drop off. There's a lot of really weird things that are happening in Apex Legends that they need to address that it's the next couple weeks will be very telling. It doesn't matter if they launch new seasons, it doesn't matter if they add new classes. If they don't get the gun balance down right, if they don't nail this down, it's going, like, people are leaving their game because it's the same shit. Like, that's part of the reason, is because they're just playing the same shit over and over again, and it's boring. I mean, it's not just the wingman. All the guns in the game are unbalanced. They're horrible. Like, there's almost no reason to use a sniper rifle. There really isn't actually any reason to use a sniper rifle. It's worse off the hip, and the DPS is worse if you're actually just taking aimed shots at someone. You could use something like a wingman and just better, so why wouldn't you? Or just use a laser rifle like a R301 or R99. Why wouldn't you? You know, there has to be pros and cons to using everything. And then gun differentiation is putting guns in specific categories. What differentiates an SMG from an assault rifle from a DMR, if you want to get picky, an assault rifle from a sniper, from a shotgun? You know, what spreads these all out? And then if you want to do something weird like energy weapons, then you start kind of adding weird categories where they can, or hybrids that go in between. The DMR is kind of an assault rifle / sniper rifle, somewhere in between, which a lot of people like for picking. And this doesn't even talk about the class balance. Class balance is another cup of tea. And I could go on about this for hours, but like they haven't split them up properly. So basically, R99 isn't really that different from an assault rifle, and it's not really all that different from a sniper rifle. So basically all about how fast you can do the damage, which is DPS. Unless you're using shotguns, shotguns are the differentiating point because they do have spread. They do have bloom in the form of a pattern, which means the further away from target you get, the wider the pattern spreads, just because of distance. Spread over time, or over distance. The only time I'm actually kind of confident that like the Peacemaker isn't actually that good unless you do pump and peek with it. If you don't do pump and peek with the Peacemaker, there's no reason in using it over an R99 because an R99 can put on more damage. Same thing with the 301. The DPS for the Peacemaker is actually really low. The only time it's very useful is in close quarters with pump and peek, where you peek out, you fire, and then you make use of the fact that it has a slow reload and burst damage by going behind a wall and taking cover and then peeking. Very prevalent in right? Anyways, I could talk about fucking game I love video game development, guys. I love video game development so fucking much. I could balance the shit out of any game. mini game. It's actually really like game development's so cool because of all the things you can do with it, and we are so not anywhere close to the peak of what you can do in video game development. They're still discovering new ways of doing different things in games, and it's really a shame when a game becomes stagnant, like Fortnite's starting to become, where they're then limited by what they can add to the game and fear of their community and outlash from their community, and not able to fix things, which is where Apex Legends is now, where they have to fix these imbalances in their game. But of course, there's going to be plenty of people that disagree with me. We had one guy in here like a week ago that was very adamant about basically spray patterns, which is the way that they balanced Apex Legends with the guns that just go in like the same spray pattern, and, like drift a little bit to the side. They all have kind of their unique little way of giving recoil to you, you know, ooh, sort of thing. But like Counter-Strike's old, it's outdated. It is a very, very simple gunplay model, and there's only guns in the game, which is the M4 and the AK, and you can't really use them on the same side. So there's really only one gun in the game, and I guess some people really enjoy that sort of thing, but most people don't. It makes for a boring game. So it's always going to be really adamant people, and they're really tough to, depending on their, like Twitch, it's not just a vocal minority. Twitch is literally, like, streamers are like super vocal and super minority. Like we're like 0.001% of gamers, and like we have like a voice like 90% of them. Like especially some big streamers with tons of people watching them, all they have is a bunch of sheeples in their stream that just meme everything that they say. It just trickles out. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It'll just trickle down. If you invest in the school of Shroud or Dizzy or Summit, or you know, you drink the Kool-Aid, you go there to mass and you ask for forgiveness from Shroud the Almighty, and you drink his aimbot Kool-Aid, you know, and you're like, I want to be Shroud, and the only gameplay that Shroud's good at is the good gameplay that should exist forever, then you know you're going to be biased, and those are people that they have to fight, and it becomes more difficult. The older the game gets, the longer the game's been out for, the more difficult it is to change the meta and have people adapt to new metas. With MOBAs, for instance, Riot has gotten people, they've basically trained their community to the point where they just add new stuff, and people don't like it. They go, where about new heroes, but they can still add new heroes that do very different things to their game. Riot, I don't play League of Legends at all. I actually play HOTS if I want to play a MOBA. But Riot, very much respect for their company and what they've done for League of Legends and MOBAs in general. Not just from a game development standpoint, but from tournaments, from advertising, from trying to uplift kind of the esports community and make it seem like it's actually what's happening there is something to be reckoned with. They've done a ton for video games in general, and they constantly change up their game. They add new things, people bitch about it, they moan about it. They keep trying new things, and that's important. You have to be able to do that, and it's very difficult, especially with first-person shooters, to keep doing that. And then you end up like Fortnite, where they're slowing to a tread, where this brick wall that they keep hammering against, which is streamers, keeps building bigger and bigger, which is the amount of support they have for whatever meta is currently in the game. Now they can't plow through it anymore. And now they're eventually just going to come to a standstill at this wall that they'll never be able to change, which is why the only answer to it is making two different game modes, one that's classic and one that's standard. So this wall then goes to classic, where they belong, and then you have a mode that you can keep changing over time. But they'll eventually get to that point. I really believe that's kind of the only answer they have. They can't actually keep their current player base in Fortnite. Like, they can't keep the two combined. Like, streamers will always, like, especially big streamers, will always want one that makes them good, and generally a lot of those big streamers are from too, so they're always going to want pump and peak, and there'll be almost nothing you can do to change your mind. Good morning, KSA. Happy Friday, guys. You guys got me on my fucking pedestal here. I'm giving a fucking sermon, guys. Fiery sermon. So, you see the sweat dripping off my brow. Just, believe in the heart of the cards. Believe in the heart of the cards. Believe in game balance, guys. Then you got all the fucking Kool-Aid drinkers in the back there looking to set fire to my church because I said bad things about Shroud and his aimbot. Just his aim, by the way. Believe in the heart of the cards. But I think Apex Legends, depending on what they do in the game, like this still can do a lot of things. It's just they have to address those main points. I basically spit them out on Twitter. In a nutshell, always, as I mentioned before, always put your shit on Twitter, regardless of how many people follow you, simply because In the future, people need to be able to reference things that you said and believe that you said them instead of just being things that you said and didn't actually say. And I've been talking about this for a while, but I put it into a tweet just to make sure. Apex Legends dropped below Fortnite during prime time solo squad trio queues. That's another thing, by the way, is splitting off solo queues and trio queues, like squad queues, into separate queues. So you have solo trios and squad trios, so you don't have herpidlerps who barely function as a team fighting against, fucking Rambo Squad 2.39, who just goes and obliterates everything in existence. Like, trio queues are just going to be, squad queues are just going to be infinitely more organized than solo pug queues. It is. Anti-cheat talked about this big deal. Class balance, gun differentiation, gun balance, cone of fire, or meaningful recoil. That's another way of addressing accuracy on weapons. Don't waste your hype train on pandering to big streamers. Yes. No likes. 2 likes, actually. Something that we'll have to address in the future, but where it's going, we'll see. But anyways, we were talking about Season 8 with Fortnite, and then I got distracted here. She's a hottie. Have I mentioned that yet? I hope I see her in real life someday. And she won't even blink at me. What, Idawin? Anyways, we don't really cover the beginning of seasons because there really isn't anything interesting that they add to the game, and this is another example. They haven't really added anything interesting. They vaulted the Stormwings. That's really the big deal. Other than that, they added the cannons. Wahoo, another thing that doesn't matter in the game, but it's kind of neat. Like I said, once your meta gets solidified and you can't change it anymore, then you just have to do stupid shit like this, like cannons that don't really do anything at all. They're just kind of interesting and they're there. Otherwise, people squawk if they actually do stuff. They didn't really do anything. Change anything at all. They added some slight tweaks to audio. It made more distinct footsteps. If you watch people's streams, the footsteps now are very distinct. It sounds like people are walking above you when they're above you now. However, they still have not added HRTF, which is something they announced that they're going to add more than a year ago now. They will not have HRTF in the game. Guess they're still working on that. There's sound development in games. We've talked about that before. That's like another 2-hour segment right there talking about audio in video games, or the lack thereof. Not really anything interesting. Most of that stuff comes later in the season after. Basically, this is all just content. It's just cosmetics. Adding new skins to the game. Get everyone excited. Even though almost nothing changes in the game. Banana peel guy. One should actually test out the hitbox on this guy. It makes me wonder if his head's right here or it's where his face is. Because where his face is like her breast height, so actually that's not right. His eyeballs are like the height of her, and he's taller. Pretty sure. Or in the picture. So he actually has like this nub on top here. Makes me wonder if he can actually shoot it. Speaking of which, hitboxes in Apex Legends. What the fuck were they thinking? I don't know. I don't know, guys. Avenger waits in Season 8. Do they have another trailer? Just cinematic trailer? Oh! Yarr! You guys love cinematics. Oh, winter's coming, guys. I really hope they do some tie-ins with Game of Thrones. Epic, despite what you do with game balance, if you don't do a cosmetic tie-in with Game of Thrones, I'm going to be really disappointed. Ooh. Just on a personal level, I'm just gonna be really disappointed if Epic doesn't do a tie-in, especially if they don't do a like if they can actually do something like the Gauntlet the Infinity Gauntlet from the Avengers. They should really, really do something like that with Game of Thrones, especially towards the end of the season. Oh my god, Epic, you have to do it. You have to do it. I don't care how young your demographic is. There's plenty of us that actually watch Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones is too good. Like it, in terms, guys, in terms of cinematography, in terms of entertainment, good series like Game of Thrones only come along like once in a decade. Like it's something that's so big. Well, I guess it's almost been streaming, or it's almost been going for a decade. It's like 7 years. It's been around a long time. But there are only opportunities that come along every so often, and you have to take full advantage of them because they just disappear and they just never happen again. There will never be another Game of Thrones. Probably the most comparable thing to Game of Thrones was like Lord of the Rings when it came out. Like not the new ones, but like the original 3, or the Matrix. Like, and those aren't TV series. TV, as far as TV series goes, like Game of Thrones is basically top tier of entertainment on TV, and even then, probably better than movies, simply because it only fits so much plot into like a 3-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie. Excuse me. Anyways, save the world, doing different things. Oh, what? Save the world, creative. They didn't actually change this. I read this on accident because it was black. If this was purple, I wouldn't have read this, or pink. Creative's green. I mentioned before, I really do hope they eventually switch. Creative eventually will become modding for Fortnite. We're kind of partway there already, so. I wonder what base model she uses. They're always like maybe they've changed that. It used to be that these characters were always based on those 4 original characters in the game. Well, 4 original gender characters, because they have like variants genders for 4 characters in each gender. There always are 3 maybe. They're always based on the same ones, and then they just change like the skin tone and hairstyle. So they always have the same basic build. They might have done away with that because they have like bananas and shit now. But they always tried to maintain like the original character baseline. I think she's the black hair chick. Eyebrows a bit, obviously. I don't know what it is, guys, but like characters in video games, like male characters, just fucking terrible. Like the level of awesomeness in Fortnite characters for the female ones just infinitely better than the male characters. Maybe I'm just biased, but for some reason it's always felt like the male character design game has just always been a lot worse than the female characters. Like no one knows how to make cool looking, I don't know, like a Cobra, G.I. Joe Cobra ripoff. This is basically Lifeline. Straight up Lifeline. Okay. Let's take a look at the Apex Legends Reddits real quick here, guys. I've been talking a long time. This is a long fucking podcast. This is a super long podcast today. A lot to talk about, though. Anyways, we're going to take a look at the Reddits here real quick, and then well, at least for a little bit. Peek inside Respawn Studio. Uh-huh. Aw. Like someone's house. Huh. Nice folding walls. They've had to make sacrifices, guys. Actually looks like... oh, a playtest area. Production studio. Good. Birds. they're going to do their development blogs. It's actually kind of weird that development companies haven't done like development blogs up until like recently, the last couple years. They're actually pretty sparse, few and far between. It's kind of like they protected it because they didn't want anyone to know about their development ideology or anything like that. Blizzard still really doesn't do shit like that, and they really should. Valve used to kind of occasionally do it, and now like Riot's even released a series for game development, which is actually really cool, like getting you kind of a easier on what goes on and what they do, which is actually really, really cool. Not something, it's like hands-on development, or like hands-on with like not just culture but also like the way they operate and do things, is something that's actually pretty tough to come by. Lifeline cosplay. I mean, she tried. It doesn't help though. She looks like she's wasted right now. That doesn't help things. 33,000 upvotes though. Good for her. I could say mean things. I'm not going to say them. Ride the wave. Fortnite Season 8 update adds Apex Legends style ping. Yeah. Pings, informative pings have been in other games like League of Legends, and I am very pro ping because I don't actually like talking with people because fuck people. Overwatch, thank you Kaplan, has taught me that generally talking to people is pointless, and most of the time you can do without doing that because it's not worth the effort. So, I don't know, maybe I'll eventually get over the fucking PTSD from Overwatch voice comms, but I kind of doubt it. That's just fucking cancer. I did the best I ever did in that game by turning off voice comms, and I'm not even joking. And we're talking GM. Like half a season, season 3, probably the most prevalent season in my personal opinion for that game. When everyone was the most tryhardy, season 3 on voice comms. Of voice comms. Wasn't really any mean things. It wasn't like racism. It's kind of what would be regarded as racism, but like Black Panther, like this many upvotes. The cosplay, in my personal opinion, honestly not that good, regardless of ethnicity of people in this photo. I don't think the cosplay honestly is that good, and it doesn't help that it, like she looks like she's stoned or drunk or something. But like Black Panther was a horrible fucking movie. It had nothing to do with ethnicity of the people. It was just fucking terrible. Like fucking rhinoceros army that came out of nowhere, and nomad villagers that like are part of this empire that for some reason just live in fucking like hovels and raise cows with like 2 cows. Like they have the most horrible life ever, and they're part of this empire that's like one of the most technologically advanced empires on Earth. Fucking terrible movie. Absolutely terrible. Black Panther was a horrid movie. Yeah, this is like affirmative action upvotes. Absolutely hate you like that. That's also why I'm an objectionable streamer, and why I probably will never go anywhere. Fucking affirmative action cosplay. She probably put a lot of work into it, and good for her, but that doesn't make you good at cosplaying, so. The Instagram page fell for it. Oh, did you know? Legend leaked. Uh-huh. That's a pretty big fucking booty. The hitbox on that thing? Look at that compared to her torso. Maybe that's a way of balancing her character. 200 IQ grapple. Not even Bloodhound could track my movements. Bloodhound sucks. I played a lot of Bloodhound. Bloodhound's just a terrible character. Like, he needs to be tweaked, or she needs to be tweaked immensely. Definitely intentional. But on council, too, so you can take that for what it is. 57.1k. 11 months ago, this was leaked in Titanfall and got pessimistic. Oh, guys, speaking of which, you guys mentioned... who mentioned that Alan mentioned that he hopes there's more game modes. I 100% agree, and I've mentioned on Twitter, and I still hopefully, one of the reasons I hope this game doesn't die is because I'm a huge Titanfall fan. Titanfall died, and it's like it was stillborn. It was like it had a lot of hype on Twitch, and then like the hype engine just reversed direction, and then it became popular to shit on Titanfall, probably because a lot of people weren't really that good at the game. And I played it even after the game died out on Twitch because it was that much fun. I really enjoyed it. The synergy between your mech and going between ground gameplay and Titanfall gameplay was seamless as fuck. It was very, very, very fluid. I love that. Love that aspect. Much in the same way, I really, really hope that Apex adds a Titanfall game mode. Not obviously the original game mode, but one where your squad can fight for an objective and eventually gain access to a Titan, and it becomes a moving objective for a lot of people. It becomes a force to be reckoned with. Not everyone can get one. It's not something they're handed out like candy, but rather it's something you can work towards as a squad, and it becomes a very powerful asset on the battlefield that you have to deal with. I think that could be immensely fun, and actually probably next-gen Battle Royale type thing going on here, because Fortnite has building, PUBG has just jerk off in the middle of nowhere and die to hackers. Fortnite, they aren't going to ever do anything like that, because if they do, like, people just freak the fuck out about it. But they still have opportunity. If they add a game mode like that, they could make it. Titans are kind of always been this asset where you can still kill them, right? You can still kill them. Just someone gets a really big leg up on you when they have one. And they're big, they're hulking, they make a lot of noise. It's very easy to tell when someone has one and somewhere you have to play around it, right? It adds a lot more tactics and strategy to the game. Strategery, it adds a lot more. It's a tactical asset on the battlefield. Strategic asset, whatever way you want to look at it. Marching around on the battlefield. And that's something that very much changes the way the game plays right now. And if you compare and contrast like things that I talk about for good gameplay to like the way that like the top players in Apex are playing right now, you see someone playing with a wingman that just literally just aim snaps to people's faces and kills them. Then they have to be forced to actually play around an item in the game, and they have to forced to work with their teammates to try and destroy it or get destroyed by it. I think an objective. It's one of the things that, what was that game mode called, guys? I talked about it a little bit earlier. Hi-Rez released it. It was a class-based battle royale. It was pretty terrible. It was like paladins in PUBG or something, like with those like 4 classes like mage rogue. It was really, really bad. It was bad, but it had a spotlight for like 2 weeks on Twitch. What was it called? I don't even remember. It's not even around anymore. Probably even shut it down. Hi-Rez likes hopping games constantly. They just hop on trendy games and try to make something similar so they can get into the hype train, so they can get a cash injection. And for some reason, their studio is still around. Weird as shit. But they like cashing in on that shit. Anyways, one of the takeaways from that game was it was a battle royale, but there was also objective-based gameplay in the game, meaning on occasion, you would have to, fights would take place around meaningful assets on the battlefield, such as a forge, because forge you'd have to use, and it'd take a certain amount of time to craft better gear. And it was something that you had to fight for, you had to deal with, or you could just not deal with it and have a better chance of surviving. But if you got a chance at the gear, the gear was a decent amount better than just normal gear that you had laying around. So battles would always take place around these mini objectives, because they weren't the real objective. The real objective was surviving till the end, being last man standing, right? But it was like a mini objective inside of Battle Royale. And because Battle Royale games last for so long, not really so long, but 20 minutes, that's a lot of time. And normally people just take up time right now with just how fast you can kill people. That's it. They just lust for kills. But you could definitely direct the energy towards other meaningful things to happen in the game. You could direct it towards things like getting a Titan, or assembling a Titan, putting Titan pieces together, fighting over a forge for Titans, or acquiring a Titan, waiting at a drop location. Realm Royale, thank you. Realm Royale. Fighting at a drop location for a Titan, like you could steal someone else's Titan too. It doesn't mean that if you drop a Titan, it has to be for that one team. There's a lot of interplay you could do there. There's a lot of really cool things you could do there. Because if you look at other games that last 20 minutes, like an RTS, a lot of things happen. A lot of things evolve in that course of time. Bases aren't the same. You don't always just start out with the same basic units in an RTS and have them throughout the game. Things evolve and change, and that's actually things that people like. And even though Fortnite people might think is this impenetrable juggernaut of a game that's existed forever, because of the way they made their game and because they're now stuck in the meta, means they can't evolve their game anymore. Means that they're kind of stuck in where they're going, in the direction they're going. They can try and change it, but anytime anything assaults that spam build meta, like, it immediately gets shot down, which is why I mentioned earlier that they're going to have to break their game off into a classic game mode and their standard game mode. There's no other way around it if they ever want to improve their game and not just add little firecrackers to the game that don't do shit. They're going to have to split the game off into two different sections. One that is classic for all the try-hard, die-hards that want to, maintain their edge that's been honed since time began in this one specific never-changing game mode. And then everyone else that kind of wants things to change and evolve over time. The same thing. Battle Royale is a game mode. It's not a game. It's not Fortnite. It's not PUBG. It's not H1Z1, which a lot of people seem to forget about for some strange reason. It's not Arma. It is a game type, and as such, it can evolve and change, and there's different things that can evolve and change throughout the game, which hasn't really been tapped at all. It's not something that's really at all. Even though they definitely could. They're constantly just thinking about the little things. They're thinking about the micro. They're thinking about new weapons and new classes. But they have to think about the macro too, like what happens throughout the match. What are things they can add to the game to add these checkpoints at which it feels as though your game is progressing? They don't really have them. The only checkpoints you really have is picking up, for people, which people do these checkpoints internally, which is getting all gold, getting all purple items, getting all gold items. You get that kind of feeling when you get all gold weapons, and not weapons, but I guess weapons in Fortnite. But you get that kind of feeling when you have like this internal checkpoint where you have your loadout that you really like, or having all purple, having a purple helmet and a purple chest piece. There's a lot of really cool things, but like they don't actually add that to the game. They aren't augmenting people with these checkpoints externally as a way and balancing it. You have to obviously balance it. You can't just give someone a Titan and it's a game check for them. Obviously you have to balance it. And Titans weren't indestructible in Titanfall. They're a big boon to power, but, then they're also a fucking bullet magnet, too, There's a lot of things you can do. And obviously, it doesn't need to be the standard game mode for Apex Legends, because it pisses off a lot of people. But there is definitely an opportunity for another game mode to become more successful than the base game mode in either Fortnite or in Apex. And there's nothing wrong with it. But, people are they're too focused on micro, and they do need to keep adding weapons, they do need to keep adding classes, because that keeps things new and fresh. But then they also need to work at ways of evolving the actual Battle Royale itself, not just weapons and classes. And if you look at other Battle Royale games, they're all very, very simplistic. They all do the same thing. The circle shrinks. One of the best things they did in Fortnite was making the circle move at the end of the game. But in general, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and just moves around a little bit, and that's basically it. And that's the end of the game. There was... Darwin Project had, nuke zones. They didn't make it where you could, box off. There's a couple neat ideas in Darwin Projects, but Darwin Projects was too much focused on the PvE aspect rather than the PvP aspect. It made it very difficult to make the games feel meaningful when you're fighting other people. Remember when multiplayer games had mods? That was great, yes, and then they became expansion packs and DLC, and that's why there aren't mods anymore. So, we also just talked about that. I talked about how Fortnite eventually is going to evolve, and I have mentioned it before. Creative should eventually evolve into mods for Fortnite, where they can add mutators and change different things. But, yep. Alright, guys. But months ago, this was leaked in our Titanfall. All I got is a pessimistic comments. Alleged minimap for rumored Titanfall Battle Royale game mode. Yeah, intentional leaks are actually a thing. It's like Apple. It's Apple 101, guys. Apple wrote the book on how to leak things carefully and strategically to fucking frothing fan base. I remember this. It was a relief to see folks blow it off, and I was thinking, well, he'll be able to see I was right when next year comes along. I'm actually kind of curious. Like, obviously this is an internal leak, so... Fucking Dave got drunk again and posted something he shouldn't have on Reddit. Fucking Dave. Anyway, squad up with Razor. I want to see if this nade goes in. Kobe. How many kills? 3. Okay. New legend leaked Karma. Oh, this is the fake post? Climb and slide 35% faster. Vertical leap, jump 2.5 times higher. Once. Upload a fake screenshot of a new legend to Reddit. Upvotes and Karma. Silver and 3 gold. Good. Damn Wraith hitbox. This game does have problems with hit registration. Yep, that is hit reg. That is 100% hit reg. And I don't know if that's someone that has a ping that's horrible or someone that has a really, really good ping. It's tough to figure that out until you see someone that's happening to, that's sitting there and gets shot. Unfortunately, a lot of the big streamers who have low pings, there is no ping display in Apex Legends for whatever fucking reason. They don't have a ping, they don't have a network display, they don't have a FPS at all. You have to manually turn on the FPS, and it's a big obtrusive thing at the top of the screen. They just don't have a stats menu, which they really need. Until they turn that on, it's going to be difficult to see people if it's because they have a low ping or if it's because of them having a high ping. With Fortnite, you could figure that fucking out because when they added the stats menu and they made everyone turn it on, it was pretty easy to figure out that everyone with a low ping had a pretty big advantage because everyone with low ping were at the top of the Fortnite list and all the big players. Almost everyone, if you exclude like entertainers, for instance. 25 MS or less, guys, that's your starting point. Okay. Alright, we're done, guys. So it is 6:30. We'll play a couple games here, and then I think I'm done. Once again, long podcast, guys. Today was a 3-hour podcast. Holy fuck. Holy fuck, we had so much to talk about. I had so much wind in me. I had to get it all out. I had to get all that wind out of me. It's still not out. There's still some of it in me. I had to let it all out. Also, she's a hottie. Mentioned that yet? Hot. Okay. Oh, by the way, I finished watching... this keeps going on. I finished watching the Umbrella Academy, guys. Very interesting how it's gotten so many negative reviews. Obviously, Umbrella Academy is not super amazing. It's a Netflix series that was just released like a week ago. It is not super amazing. Like, it's not the end-all be-all. It's not a Game of Thrones. However, I actually think it's a really good... What it is, it's like a strong B+ series. Just because of, like, the ingenuity of the characters and the attempt of making it kind of a new and unique plot, and it's not something that's really solidified. Like some of the characters actually kind of feel like they could die or they do different things that you don't otherwise think. It's one of those series where it's not super predictable. It's actually very, very good. And what makes it even better is I have a C8 PUA, guys, which is an OLED. I have an OLED TV, and there aren't many things that make my OLED TV sing, but when you get a fucking 10-bit HDR 4K OLED, like all four of those things combined, oh god, it is like watching like fucking sex on your eyeballs. Like whenever you see it, it is so good. And it's probably not the best. Probably one of the best series I've watched so far is the new Lost in Space series. That has some really, really, really nice CG in it. But fucking HDR 10-bit OLED and then 4K on top of it looks really, really fucking good. Oh my god, it really makes you, like, it's not just one of those things. It's when you combine all of them, it makes you really, really happy that you have a modern TV. And it doesn't happen often. Mainly Netflix is the only series, or not the only series, only company that is producing content for like next-gen TVs. It is really tough to find really like next-gen content for like over-the-air stations like Sci-Fi. Even though like The Expanse is a really good series. Well, Expanse is Amazon now. It's not even Sci-Fi. It's not Syfy's. Magicians, you know, there's actually Syfy actually released a like Expanse and Magicians I've been watching since the beginning, and they're both pretty good. Both pretty good. But in general, it's actually very tough to find like next-gen content on like just normal channels. But Netflix, on occasion, releases stuff that is actually built for next-gen sets, and I have one. And then when you watch this stuff, it looks so good, guys. It looks so fucking good. It looks so fucking good. Oh god, just like some of the scenes that they set up just look like the lighting just looks so good, and the CG looks so good. But yeah, Umbrella Academy, I'd recommend watching it. It was kind of a bigger deal on Twitch that they talked about it probably a week ago. I was kind of slow. I didn't watch it all at once. Kind of savored a bit of it, but in general, very good. Highly recommend, guys. All right, play some Apex Legends, shall we? Fallout 67 should have modes eventually. Yeah, that's not going to save that game. Like they took a game that's single player, and then they took the single player out of the single player game, and then they just added multiplayer, thinking that it would make up for the fact that there's no storyline anymore. So, no, things that actually made the game interesting is what the game no longer has. Let's play some games, guys. Change my category too. Talk show over. Vacate the premise. Probably never see Game of Thrones. I don't know why. And he's disconnected. Worst time to play games, guys, is like the 7 to 10 a.m. window when all the kids are playing.
All right, let's do this. It'll be
Get
fun.
a lot of
You know, we
disconnects.
all make bad choices. You live, you learn.
I know what you're looking for. I'm in.
That's a shame. There's also some people that don't watch Game of Thrones because it's too good. Like, all their friends talk about it, so then they don't want to watch it. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot.
There's a thin line between life and death. You'll find